So you have audio. There you are.
Hey, everybody. So welcome back to the whatever we're doing. Illuminated Page. It has been far too long.
It has.
Sorry. So welcome back to the Illuminated Page. I'm Matt, and I am joined by Shawn.
Hello.
John.
Hey guys.
We're not getting
there he
John.
is. There he is.
Hello.
There we go. Roxy.
Hello.
And David.
Hey guys.
Sorry, when I looked at Shawn, all I saw was the stream, and it said Aaron, and I was like, "That's not his name. It's not his name. It's not his name. What's his name?"
What's his name?
So we're off to a great start for season 2. Thank you for bearing with us with the long hiatus. I know that we took some time off, and then Roxy and John got to go and see family, so we took a little bit longer of a hiatus. But honestly, we all needed a little bit of a break and stretch our legs mentally stretch our, yeah, good with that. So welcome back. We're going to do a recap, and then we're going to introduce some new characters and see where we go from there, and hopefully no one dies tonight.
Do you want to see my recap video?
Oh, you have a recap video?
That's what I've been like stressed out working on all day because my computer wouldn't work. But I think it works. I just put it in. I haven't actually tested it on this computer, and with the way tonight's going, that's probably not good. But I mean, if you guys are interested,
yeah, let's do it.
All right, it's about 5 minutes long, so
Cool.
I didn't anticipate it for being that long at first, but here we are. So,
Well, in all fairness, there's a lot that went on in that final episode.
there is. So yeah, it's a final episode. It's the season 1 finale recap. It's not like a whole
cool.
season 1 recap. So so let's see if this works. So let's see what happens. Claudius, oh, I've missed your face. Was it only a few weeks ago? Well, it feels longer. You know, I've had the strangest dream since we got to Egypt. Hell, since New York, if I'm honest, but we both...
Stop it and reselect the audio with the...
I don't know what I need to do. We're back, guys.
Okay.
Well, you guys almost saw a really cool recap video that I've been working on for a little while. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah,
it was ominous with that black page and the white text.
And the white text. It was all like Blair Witch and stuff, but it was gonna get better than that.
I was about to just start reading it. I mean,
Yeah, I was reading it as it went along.
Yeah, well, I mean but that's the only part that's got text.
Oh.
I did a whole audio thing that needs to be there, and for some reason it is not. Why isn't it working? That makes me... It showed that it had audio, but it certainly wasn't playing. Maybe. I mean, who are our 3 viewers? Is it all us?
Maybe, but also I had a friend today be like, "Hey, I'm totally gonna listen."
Sweet.
So, Adam, if you're there,
yeah, friend, if you're here,
appreciate you.
Yeah. So,
right now it looks like our regulars, so they're used to bearing with us.
that's 100% true.
Ain't that the truth?
So let me try this again real fast, and I'm gonna see if I can't make some changes while it's happening, that maybe we can get some sound, and if I can get it working, then we'll restart it. Is that all right?
Cool.
Is that cool?
Good.
Sorry,
Yeah.
doing it on the fly, y'all. So I'm gonna take that off, and then I'm gonna go. Claudius, oh, I've missed your face. Was it only a few weeks ago? Well, it feels longer. You know, I've had the Claudius, oh, I've missed your face. Was it only a few weeks ago? Well, it feels longer. You know, I've had the strangest dream since we got to Egypt. Hell, since New York, if I'm honest, but we both know that's rarely the case. While you're here, you really should not go to the pyramids. The boys and I went over to Dashur, went to the Bent Pyramid. Don't worry, the city sent some liaison with us, make sure we wouldn't touch anything that we weren't supposed to. But we found a room that was wrong somehow. There were these gems on these pedestals and a map on the wall. Star charts too, I think. Dalphus said something about it, but... Well, I didn't get to see too much too closely before that damned liaison. Whatever was wrong with that room made him wrong too. He pulled a lighter from under his vest or something and just tried to light one of these gems on fire. Now, I know how crazy that sounds, but I had to stop him. I'm not quite sure why, but I did know that if he lit one, well, he fought back at any rate, driven by some unholy purpose. Bobby was taking pictures, I think. I remember the flashes, and Dalphus was oblivious. Put a relic in front of him, and you can kiss the rest of any conversation you were having goodbye. Aaron helped, though. Got the lighter away from him, and then... Did I mention a throne? There was one, and it was empty when we got there, but not anymore. This goddamn man... Not a man. Said they were the Black Pharaoh... Nephron Ka... No. But... Well, yes, but no. Nyarlathotep? Sounds like nonsense, and my mouth isn't used to it, but I can't forget the sound of it. What? No, I told you, Claudius, they were not a man. Looked like one, talked like one, but not. I mean, he sealed the door we came in through. How many men have you seen do that? And more than that, he took one look at our liaison, and the liaison just withered, turned to dust right before our eyes, and I wasn't too excited about ending up like that, so I asked Aaron if he still had any of that dynamite he'd been carrying around. In the walls. All eyes, mouths, wings. From the walls. And then a god-awful noise, and that door blew wide open. That pharaoh? mad as hell. And one of them monsters that... Don't look at me like that, Claudius. I'm not mad. The other way, the walls, they shut on one of them, and the other, well, it took off out of the room ahead of us. No more Pharaoh now. Took that mask right off. Showed us their true face. Just tentacles and bone. That's all I could see. And this is where I don't understand what happened, if you can believe it. Bobby is clutching some plate and rambling, eyes crazy, and we get surrounded by this fog. And I'll be damned, but Aaron's bag tried to pull him into it. Dalphus was trying to help him, and all I could see was the shadow of that fiend blocking out the sun and the doorway. And then I felt the cold steel of my daddy's shotgun in my hand. And I fired. I knew it hit from the sound it made, and from the wash of sunlight streaming through the door. And whatever had hold of Aaron, well, it didn't like that sunlight. "Send the light!" I heard that old preacher screaming from the pulpit way back in Savannah. You know how it rings in my ears, especially when I don't want it to. Well, as soon as that shadow covered the door again, I had to send the light, son, and I fired, and that son of a bitch went down. Took the whole damn pyramid with it. You know, I could do with never going to the desert again. Maybe we could go back to Chicago after this? Even for a weekend? No? Well, at least these ladies are very nice. And I think the one that tightens my straps, I think she likes me. But you know how it is. Everybody likes me. So there, that's what I did.
Yay!
Nice. That was awesome.
That was amazing,
you.
Roxy. Like
Super cool.
That was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
We definitely need to grab that as a clip or something, just as its own
Yeah,
video
it's
to put on the yeah.
yeah, it's a separate video on its own and everything. So should be
Hey,
on.
if you're watching, Roxy can be hired. All you got to do is email her
Yeah.
or tweet at her. Like, no, seriously. That's what she could do with the computer that was fighting with her. Can you imagine what she could do if it wasn't?
Yeah. Hire me. Help me buy
Seemed to work.
computer equipment that works better.
Yeah, that was gorgeous, Roxy.
Thank you
Like,
very much.
just
And
yeah.
and thank you to Justine
geez,
Chauvin
yeah.
for all the art that she did for us. That was she's fast and she's good, and she captured the atmosphere and the scenes that I had in my mind.
Yeah, she's been a pleasure to work with too.
And yeah, and that was the first time I'd seen the picture with Aaron's arm in the bag and then tentacle running up it.
Yeah.
That was like it fit totally what I saw when we were doing that scene.
I
Yeah.
forgot I tentacle bagged you. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's better than
alright.
tea.
So, wow, I don't know that I want to recap now. It's gonna look like crap.
See,
but
I wanted to
here we
send
go.
that. I wanted to send that to you guys earlier, but we literally got it uploaded to OneDrive like
Within the last
5:15,
hour.
and then Zoom shot craps. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was fun to make, and it turned out pretty well. I think I recorded that script like 5 or 6 times. So, but
It was real good. Good writing. Fantastic
thank
writing
you,
too.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
But
All right. So let's touch on this story that we've got so far. So our 4 investigators, that was Aaron, Lockhart, Bobby Blackwood,
Boom, boom,
Yeah.
Blackwood.
Boom, boom, black.
Jewel Rumtree, and Professor Dalphus Hardgrove all came together to meet a man named Jackson Elias, friend of the professor and Mr. Lockhart. They were going to talk to him about something weird going on. When they arrived, he had been murdered, and they chased the murderers down, killing one of them, or both.
no,
One.
just one. Yeah.
One of them did get away. Some hijinks ensued in New York City, and it became very clear that there was a global conspiracy, that something bad was happening. They weren't quite sure what, but they had to do something to stop it. So they tied up some ends burned down some ends in New York.
Yeah.
Dealt with a cult there called the Cult of the Bloody Tongue. There was literal danger to lives there, as Bobby single-handedly fought off a couple of cultists himself. And then they headed to London to meet with the head of the Pinhue Foundation and Edward Gavigan. They're all tracking down a group called the Carlisle Expedition that went to Egypt a few years ago and never came back. It's expected that it's believed that they're all dead. And information has come to light that maybe they are not, or at least some of them aren't. Gavigan turns out to be working for a different cult, although maybe the same cult, called the Cult of the Black Pharaoh. And it also seems that he may have been one of the high priests. After some investigation, we'll call that investigation in London, things came to light. There was a confrontation between Gavigan, a man named Tufik al-Said, and the group that left both Tufik and Gavigan dead in a nightclub, and our group running for France, but not before they went to a place called the Miser House, where Gavigan held some of his darkest secrets. One of those dark secrets we did see come out of a bag in that video we just saw. They then went to France to kind of hide and heal, because Dalphus was all but dead. He barely got out of there with his life. And it was very clear that the things they were seeing were starting to erode the sanity of every member of the group. Meanwhile, Jewel had been in constant communication with her husband, Claudius, and everyone else in the group had also sent letters and notes back to loved ones and family to keep them apprised of what was going on if the worst should happen. When arriving in Egypt, some investigation ensued there. Bobby was introduced to a group called the British Tea Society through his contact at
It was a Cairo
through a-
museum.
at the museum, and unfortunately, Bobby isn't going to be with us to really keep that contact as it is. That contacted point, or the contact, Dr. Gafour pointed them towards some more information. They headed out to a pyramid to see what was going on there and to try and piece together some more parts of the puzzle. And unfortunately, that's where they met a creature, a monster, calling himself Nyarlathotep. This experience broke both Jewel and Bobby, left them in a very fragile mental state. It also left Aaron and Dalphus not great. Their mental facilities are still with them, but they're not doing great either. So our last session, we opened up in the hospital with Dalphus and Aaron kind of explaining to the police what happened as best they could. And Jewel and Bobby are being treated in the asylum now. They have officially been put under psychiatric help. So that's kind of where we're at. Let's start with Claudius. Claudius, you arrived at the hospital a day or two after Jewel did. You expected to hear something, and when you didn't,
Yeah, he was actually watching. He was keeping an eye on the hospitals there, so he was there pretty fast.
So when you didn't hear from her and you did find her at the hospital, tell me what, like, we just went through what Jewel, I assume, was telling you, and not just mumbling to herself in a room by herself, hopefully.
No, I was there.
So what are your next steps? You've seen Jewel, seen your wife.
I would immediately after I spoke with her and saw the state that she was in, and the things she was saying were pretty out there. I mean, she's written me some interesting letters, and I have all those letters with me as well. And I've gone through the hospital. The hospital staff did give me some of her personal effects that she had on her, including her journal, and so I leafed through that for a little bit. And honestly, what she's saying doesn't sound like it's not necessarily something that she wouldn't have seen on this trip. So while it sounds pretty ludicrous to me, I'm going to be wanting to talk to Dalphus or Aaron at some point. I reached out to where Mr. Blackwood was being held, but his father would not let me see him.
Yeah, the Blackwood family has clamped down pretty hard on Bobby. So you've been to the hospital. You spent time, I assume, with Jewel on a regular basis for a few days.
Yeah, I made sure that she is not only getting the best of care here, but is going to be able to make a journey back. I will hire a escort to take her back to the States, and so she can convalesce and recuperate there. Other than that, I have taken a leave of absence from my duties at the Thompson and Yarrow shipping company, and I am here for the long haul. She was into something deep, and I am interested in finding out what, and I wouldn't mind, ending whatever tried to end her.
Okay. So let's go ahead and have you meet with Aaron and Dalphus. Boys, where have you two been through the last couple of days? You've I think both of you have taken some damage, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So what were you at, better question is, let's go ahead and assume you've healed up a week under doctor's care. So roll 2d3 and heal any hit points you need to with that.
2d3. That's 1. So that is, I heal 4 points of damage.
Okay, I healed 6. Puts me at 19.
So what have you boys been doing? You spent a little bit of time in the hospital. They probably patched you up and sent you back to the hotel. What have you two been doing the last few days?
After trying to see Bobby off, I would have sent a telegram or a letter, probably a telegram first, short and sweet, to Erica Carlisle, telling her that we have pretty good evidence that her brother may still be alive.
Okay. You're reaffirming what you've already sent, because you did send that once before.
Yeah, but this time we actually have more proof based off of that last 2 episodes that
Sure.
this is definitely something to lead on, mainly because we need to keep financing this. So I am also going to send a letter asking for additional funds. Not in Telegram, but a follow-up letter.
Okay. Other than that, Dalphus, have you been doing anything in particular?
I would have been spending as much time as I was able to with Miss Rumtree, trying to visit her, trying to get things situated, working on a letter, sending back to the university, informing them of what was going on, awaiting for Claudius to get there, and then probably going to talk to Dr. DeFore a little bit.
So I'd say like the 4th day after you guys arrive back, you've been patched up, you've been allowed to kind of roam. You've gone and seen Jewel a couple of times, but she's always kind of been either in and out of sleep or in and out of a fit. But by the 4th day, you go to see her and check on her. There sits Claudius next to her, holding her hand, listening to her talk. She's not really saying anything of importance. She does mention Chicago and wishing she was there. But Claudius is definitely there with her.
Dalphus, come in.
Claudius.
How have you been, sir?
Been better, honestly.
I don't doubt it. This sounds like it's been quite an adventure if I'm to believe everything that Jewel's been telling me.
Well, that indeed. First, before anything, just let me say this. Believe her. Some of the things she says may be outlandish, but believe her that what she's been through is real. No matter what any of these doctors around here try to tell you, believe her.
She is one of the few people in my life that I have learned to trust implicitly, and I am very interested in learning more about the things that have happened. I, of course, would not discuss them here, and I really don't want to discuss them around her either. I just don't want to get her upset. She's being kept very comfortable and very sedated most of the time. But I have an escort already hired and ready to take her back to New York, where she will receive care there. I don't really care to leave her here in Cairo for too much longer. But if at all possible, I would love to take dinner with you and maybe Mr. Lockhart if possible, and
of course,
discuss some of the events. I have been kept fairly apprised of what's been going on, but of course, I am behind as the mail, as it would be. But I do have her journal, and it's very interesting. But yeah, if we could do that, and I, if possible, I may tag along with y'all for a little bit, just to kind of get more information, and I know she leaves a gap to fill. And I'm not as knowledgeable about some things as she is, but I can certainly learn and make do, as it were.
Of course, that sounds good. I don't think any of us want to stay in Cairo that much longer, so
Okay,
yes,
fantastic.
sending her home is good.
Okay. All right. Well, let me get her. Have the nurses make sure she's comfortable, and we can meet again, maybe this evening.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Dalphus. Thank you.
All right, so you two kind of part ways. Aaron, you've been checking around at the other hotels because you guys set up backups for backups, and a message is left at the one that Bobby had mentioned he was at, or had registered at, for Bobby. Just a quick note from Dr. Kafour. Just saying, I might have information and someone that could help you. Please contact me at your earliest convenience.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go and talk to Dr. Kafour.
Do you want to take Darius with you? Dalphus with you? I'm just going to make up names. It's fine.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll go back to the hotel we're staying at.
Mm-hmm.
And let him know that Dr. Kafour reached out to us and he's got someone that might be able to help us some more.
Okay.
So, Dalphus, how's Jewel?
Oh, she seems to be resting okay. They have her medicated quite heavily at times, but of course they don't believe what we've been through and what she's saying. So I think the circumstances as they are, we couldn't ask for much better than how she is right now.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I mean, we barely got a chance to see Bobby before his family whisked him away.
Her husband, Claudius, is here now.
Oh, is he?
Yes, and he's arranged to have her taken home.
Oh, that's great. I was really worried about leaving her in Cairo.
Yeah, no, that won't be a problem now. So, and he wants to meet with us over dinner.
Oh, when?
This evening.
Okay, that works. Actually, I was checking some of our backup hotels, and there was a message left for Bobby at one of our fallbacks, and it was from Dr. Kafour reaching out saying that he actually might have someone that might be able to assist us.
Okay.
Because I mean, if there's one person that's going to believe anything that's happened, it's going to be him. At least we don't have to, look. At least we don't have to, stare at their pitying eyes as we tell our insane tale.
Yeah.
So I was actually on my way there. Did you want to come with and meet this person that Dr. Kafour wants to introduce us to?
That would be good. I'd like to do that.
All right, great. Let's go ahead and head out, and hopefully by the time we're done, we'll be in time to go meet Claudius for dinner.
All right.
I need all four of you to roll, let's say, a knowledge.
All of us? Sweet.
Yes.
I get to roll. First roll of season 2.
So wait, knowledge? So
No. KNOW. Top. Very, very top.
oh, very, very top.
What am I missing here?
It's
It's up with your stats, John.
up with
Would
the
it be
characteristics.
intelligence,
What do
maybe?
you-
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about idea.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, I was like,
Okay. I got a 69, so I passed mine.
Let me just pull up a character sheet so I don't keep doing that. That's infuriating on my end.
That's okay.
Good Lord, Matt. What are you doing?
Is that just
Like,
a version
man, am I
difference?
just blind and not seeing?
I know, I was like-
Cool.
I'm like looking at my character sheet going, wait a minute.
I mean, I know it's been a few weeks, but dang.
Matt just wants us all to feel crazy. He's just setting the tone.
In previous editions, so education is actually knowledge. On your edition of the character sheet, on your additional character sheet, it's not there, or it is.
Education is.
Have education, yes.
So it should be education. So previously it was a derived stat from education, but now it's just a stat with education.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't
Cool.
matter.
I still passed.
Yeah, I passed
Not a
as
big deal.
well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you pass, you all have noticed in the newspaper well, whoever passed notices in the newspaper. There has been a news article about the destruction of one of the mosques here in town. Part of it was fell into a sinkhole, and there was a good deal of structural damage done there. It's believed that several of the clergy have died. It's the Mosque of Ibn Tulun.
Well, that's not suspicious at all, no, is it?
And if you guys remember, there was some note from Faraz Najir that the Brotherhood was interested in that mosque.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It's been months, so I wanted to make sure we called back to that appropriately. But
one question I have kind of out of game, but
Sure.
for in-game knowledge, did is Jewel remembering correctly? Did the bent pyramid actually collapse?
no, the collapsed pyramid collapsed.
Yeah, but with the one that we were in.
Oh, I see. Not after you were done. No, it did not.
Okay, but
I don't-
because I'm pretty sure that happened at the end of the last episode.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes.
But I didn't know if she was
tilting
crazy or
and
not.
Sinking and
Yeah,
it
it was
collapsed
coming.
because you guys set up explosives inside.
Okay. That's
so much
what
collapses. Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what
was
Roxanne
awesome.
thought, but I just wanted to make sure that
it's fine.
wasn't completely like we've destroyed a national icon.
no, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
Italian.
Don't worry
Good.
about that.
Good.
It's not important. It's definitely not a high crime or any problems there. Don't. No.
Yeah, no, because the military was still trying to figure out what the hell the giant snake thing that was flying around was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys head to the three of you head, or I'm sorry, the two of you head to Dr. Kafour's office at the museum. You are let in relatively quickly by the receptionist or the secretary, and he motions for you to sit down. And he says, I have met a man some time ago. He is quite knowledgeable in many of the things that I would consider important to what Bobby made me understand you were investigating. And sent the note. I knew that Bobby had been incapacitated, but I felt that this would be the best way to get the information to you. I knew what hotel he was staying at, and I didn't feel that. I felt that someone would get the information. In the worst case, I would talk to one of his family members.
Yeah. I mean, I was checking for messages just in case we got a lead from a source or, someone like yourself, Dr. Kafour, reached out to us. I mean, what happened to Bobby is tragic and horrible.
It is.
I'm hoping that you do have someone that can help us because honestly, Dalphus is quite knowledgeable in history and artifacts, less so in, I guess, what we're going to call the occult.
Yes.
And we really do need someone with that kind of knowledge.
Mr. Sheridan and I have become acquainted over time. We share similar interests. His knowledge is not the same as mine, but it covers different areas that mine does not. He has proven himself, I feel comfortable saying that he is of the right moral attitude to assist you in this.
In other words, not a cult member that's looking to seek out our destruction.
If he is attached to something like that, I would be very surprised. His interest is partially academic, but I also believe there's a level of disgust and frustration in that. That's the read I've gotten off of him over the several times that we've met and in our correspondences. He is available to come meet with you and have discussions, but I didn't want him to introduce him to you without discussing it with you first.
No, I appreciate that because, quite frankly, I can't speak for Dalphus, but I'm like very on edge and very leery of personally, I just think everybody's out to get us at this point.
There are many strange things going on in Egypt.
And we
Yeah,
are
that's an
going to be, and we're trying to leave as soon as we can. We're just trying to tie up some loose ends and pursue other avenues to hopefully stop what's going on.
Yes. Where should I send Mr. Sheridan is the gentleman's name. Where should I send Mr. Sheridan to meet with you?
Well, Dalphus and I actually have an appointment this evening. If you can get a message to him, we could meet him at the hotel that you sent the message to Bobby through tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
We'll definitely have him do that. I am sorry for what has happened. I hope you understand that you have my deepest condolences for the 2 members of your group that have fallen ill. There are many dark things here in Egypt, and I fear that you may have found some of the darkest.
I'm hoping their sacrifice is going to be worth it, because I feel like we put a stop to something bad, horrible happening here that may not stop it worldwide, but at least hopefully stopped it from spreading anymore here.
Oh no, we all disappeared.
The stream paused.
Oh no. Did it?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Roxy? you
Yeah,
there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, you're fine.
What happened? Just a second. How about now? I'm not showing any drop frames.
Everybody's
I'm
back
not
on
seeing
screen.
myself or Dalphus. There
Nope,
we go.
then we're back.
Okay, sorry y'all. Sorry y'all.
That's not a problem.
Not sure what happened, but I won't touch that button again.
It's a big red button that must never ever be
Must
touched.
Must never be touched.
So that night, you're going to go to dinner with Claudius?
Yep.
All right. So you guys find a semi-nice restaurant?
Yeah, Claudius, we'll just say that Claudius sent just a quick memo to be left for Dalphus or Aaron at either a hotel where he knew Jewel was staying or at the hospital, and to meet him at it's a fairly nice restaurant.
Roxy, you're coming in a little light.
Let's try
audio.
that. Is that any
That's a
better?
little better. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But yeah, so fairly nice restaurant. He would have left a note for him.
Okay. Does Claudius show up early? Is that
Yeah,
the kinda-
Claudius will be waiting there. He's already made arrangements for the bill and everything.
So the 2 of you arrive. Claudius has gotten you a semi-private table, kind of in the main dining room, but like that back corner booth. And the other tables aren't quite close enough that they can hear if you guys talk quietly.
Yeah.
The restaurant itself is a little loud and it echoes a bit because of the construction of the building. So it's not like you're going to be heard if you're careful.
Gentlemen, good to see you. Please come and sit.
I am going to sit with my back against a wall.
Claudius, this is Mr. Lockhart, Aaron, and this is Claudius, Jules' husband.
Nice to meet you, Claudius. I've actually heard some great things about you.
Well, it must not have been from Jewel, but I appreciate that, and I appreciate that you are a man of caution, and I recognize not wanting to have your back to the door, but I'll make that sacrifice for the evening. But I didn't take the liberty of ordering anything for you all yet. Unfortunately, I don't know you very well yet, and so I didn't want to make any assumptions about, any preferences you may have. But there should be wine coming to the table any moment now.
That sounds great. I think we all have a lot to talk about. So,
we definitely do. So I figured they'll probably order. He's going to wait until the waitress or the waiter or whoever is not coming to the table regularly.
Sure.
So before he really small talk until then.
Sure.
But once we have our food and our drink and I feel we're pretty settled, he'll
Real
dive
quick.
in. Yep.
First, Shawn, if you could be careful with hitting the table. The mic is picking it up and the camera is
Yeah,
shaking.
That was
Sorry.
actually no. The camera shaking was the dog. He came in
okay.
and bumped into my desk.
That figures.
That's
And then Aaron and Dalphus, can I both get you to give me? Let's go with psychology checks.
Okay. And for everybody watching, I'm using a dice roller on the computer tonight because, as you can see by the empty shelves behind me, I'm currently packing to move across country, and I packed all my dice without thinking about it. So
Moving closer to the cool people.
yeah, I guess that's what
the
you-
cool
yeah.
weather. Anyway,
I got a 2,
Well, okay.
nice.
and my psychology is a 10.
Nice. Well, that's
Mark the box.
that's
Mark
an
the box.
that's an extreme success.
Exactly.
And Dalphus, did you succeed?
I did not.
Okay. So Aaron, Claudius, Claudius may not immediately look like it, but Claudius is not afraid at all of getting a little rough. You can see the look in his eyes is very calm and cool. I wouldn't say that he gives off an aura of a gangster, but he has that same assuredness of being prepared for that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, I get the vibe from him that I would have gotten from working as a detective in New York with
and a
various
couple of,
mafias and gangsters and stuff.
and a couple of the guys that you served with that were just willing to take care of what needed to get taken care of the way it needed to, with not a lot of questions asked.
Cool. All right.
So go ahead.
All right. I'm sure while we did our small talk, Claudius would have asked Aaron if he'd ever heard of Sampson and Yara Shipping Company. It is a fairly large building and warehouse in New York City, and he would mention that he did own it. So. And he goes, yeah, we have our main headquarters there in New York, but of course I have warehouses and offices in both Shanghai and Sydney. It seems kind of weird that we have two so close together over there, but we do. But I inherited the company from old Mr. Yarrow, and it's been nice. It's been a shame that Jewel hasn't been able to live at home, but she, really enjoyed her work out there at Miskatonic. She spoke very highly of you, Dalphus. I know we've met before a few times, but she's gonna miss it. I'm quite sure.
It won't be the same without her. I hope she's able to recover to come back to her duties.
Me too. She, like I said, she's gonna get the best of care back in New York. I'm quite confident. In fact, she'll be. I know we discussed briefly. It was mentioned earlier. You guys are planning on leaving Cairo. So is your work done here?
Well, our work is not done. As far as Cairo is concerned, there may be some things that need to be done here, but we're not willing to do them now.
Oh,
And I
Things
think
are-
there's more
things-
important things elsewhere.
That and things are a little hot right now here in Cairo, besides the weather.
I've read some very interesting things happening. Jewel made some mention about what happened at the pyramid, but she never mentioned anything about that mosque, and that certainly seems questionable. I assume you fellas have read about that.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, it was the cult that we've been dealing with was actually had a lot of interest in that mosque.
Should we be worried that it's gone, or is that a good thing?
Dalphus,
Well,
I would say
that is
good.
not an avenue that we've had a chance to really investigate, to be honest. So I don't know what was there and if they took something or if its destruction is a boon in our favor or theirs, honestly. So
Well, I completely understand. I can't imagine going through what y'all have been through this whole time from New York on. Jules kept me quite informed. I it just sounds. I mean, pardon the phrase, but it does sound crazy. I believe it. I have no doubt that what she told me of and what she wrote about in her letters was nothing but the truth. But it's definitely a change from what she's never had artifacts do that to her. Let's just put it that way, I suppose.
it's a new experience for all of us.
So so I've got her ready to go. I'm gonna put her on a boat probably tomorrow. When do you fellas plan on leaving?
We actually are meeting with someone that a contact wants to introduce us to. Someone that could actually probably help shed some light on what's going on.
Oh,
So
interesting.
we're meeting him in the morning.
Okay.
You're welcome to if you're available after getting Jewel on the boat home. If you're available to meet with us with Mr. Sheridan, you're more than welcome to.
Interesting, Mr. Sheridan. I'm not. She never wrote about Mr. Sheridan, and it's someone that you just know here in town, or?
Well, it's someone that Dr. Kafour is introducing us to. He was actually hoping to for this individual to work with Bobby on some things.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Jewel did have a note in her journal about a Dr. Kafour, and she had some scribbled. They were kind of. Her notes were a little jumbled, but also a little heated. But she had mentioned that Bobby had met with some people from the British Tea Society or something like that. And I'll be honest, that's nothing I've ever heard of. But I don't drink a whole lot of tea. But I would actually enjoy meeting with them quite a bit. I don't know if Dolphus told you, but if you guys are looking for someone to take up a third position in your traveling party, I would be more than happy to join. I do come with money and resources. I know Mr. Blackwood was a partial financier of this expedition, as it were, as well as Miss Carlyle. But I would be happy. Money is not the only thing I can do. I'd be happy to join you if you'd have me.
Well, more importantly, I think you're someone who we can trust to have interest aligned with our own and not out to kill us. So
That is 100% for sure. Killing is not something I enjoy doing, and I'd like to think I don't have the heart for it.
Well, when you were telling me, sorry, trying to get back in the swing of things, guys.
That's fine.
So you mentioned that you had offices in Shanghai and Australia?
We do. We have primarily we own some warehouses there where we store some things for the shipping company. But and just to make shipping a little easier, have our own people handle them in those areas rather than outsourcing that to another firm locally.
Interesting.
Are those? I know. Jewel did mention Shanghai as possibly. She said like I said, her notes aren't exactly the clearest things, and she takes notes that mean something to her, but don't necessarily mean anything to the rest of us.
Shanghai and Australia are both locations of interest for us right now.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah. We found some clues in New York that would lead us to Shanghai, and there is a professor that we are interested in talking to in Australia as well that might have some connections to these cults that were not connections as in part of them, though given our recent luck, he's probably the head of the cult down in Australia. But
I shouldn't laugh, excuse me.
No, it's you got to laugh to keep from crying. correct me if I'm wrong, Dalphus. He was the leading expert in Polynesian death cults, correct?
I think
That sounds correct to my memory.
I think it was something
Yeah.
like that.
Without flipping through my notes, because that'll be loud.
Death cults from somewhere.
Yeah, from Polynesian cultures. So yeah, there at this point, I think we're rather open to where we go. We just know we want out of Cairo.
Okay. I do. Jewel had mentioned in her latest letter that you all had talked when you were in France. You had discussed perhaps going to Australia. If that's something, I can definitely get us passage on a liner to get there, and I do have some friends locally, or at least people we could I trust anyway to keep our affairs quiet while we're there if needed.
Actually, someone to help kind of grease the wheels.
I can do that too. Samson and Yarrow makes a lot of money for a lot of good people. Well, makes a lot of money for a lot of people, let me put it that way.
I maybe not now, but I do have some documentation on some things that were shipped around, possibly to Shanghai, possibly to Australia, to or from. Maybe you can take a look and help decipher some of the shipping notations and see if it's something that your company might have passed along, because if we can track it a little better, that would be some great help.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that for you. I worked my way on up from a meager shipping clerk. I've worked just about every position in that company, so if I don't know it, I'd be surprised.
Great.
So please, and I've kept you all talking about ugly, dark things, but you're free to. I won't pry yet. But you're free to tell me anything that you might think is pertinent if we're going to be traveling together. But I would definitely like to meet this. You said Mr. Sheridan?
Yes, actually, I think we're all looking forward to meeting this Mr. Sheridan.
Yeah, that would be if the British Tea Society. Like I said, the notes were a little confusing, but they sounded very interesting, and like they had some information that would be beneficial. Jewel certainly thought so, though she didn't much think that it was smart of Bobby to go and talk to him the way he did.
He went on his own. He was, eager for information, and he had some pretty drastic experiences leading up to this point. Believe it or not,
True, I
he
heard
was
about
actually sucked into a painting. Did Jewel write about that?
She did. I thought it was a metaphor.
No,
at
no,
first,
it was,
or maybe at best innuendo, but
it was quite literal.
But I heard about his skin affliction as well, and that these people might have been able to help him or something. I don't know. She really wasn't specific on the skin affliction, just that it was, to put it mildly, horrific.
It was. I wouldn't go horrific. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, it was basically a patch of snake skin that was fused to his arm.
I mean, I've seen tattoos like that, but I've never.
No, this was quite literal. I mean, you could see where his skin ended and the snake skin started. I mean, he was looking for answers, and I think he was looking for answers to other things that he hadn't told any of us yet.
Well, the affliction alone kind of explains why the Blackwoods kept him away from everybody. Because I tried to talk to him, and I was not even allowed to see him. Old Mr. Blackwood stopped me even from inquiring, quite frankly. And so, but if he was dealing with something such as that, I can believe, especially if his father wasn't aware, I'm sure he did not want anybody poking around that he didn't trust. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
If we actually survive this, I am probably going to lose a lot of work in New York. I don't think Bobby's dad has got a very good opinion of me yet, or as of now.
Well, he's not as influential there as other people that you might know, so don't worry about that too much. But anyway, gentlemen, let's finish our dinner and we shall prepare for tomorrow. I've got a lot to do before I get Jewel on that boat.
All right. Sounds great.
Unless there's
Alright.
something else you guys wanted to talk about.
We got a long boat ride.
Yeah, that's the thing. We got more time for exposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the dinner goes fine. There's some talk. There's some more, a little bit details filled in here and there for Claudius that are missing already, or that are missing from notes. Just stuff that Jewel didn't write down. The dinner goes fine. The three of you kind of part ways shortly after dinner. You guys find Dalphus and Aaron. You find yourself at breakfast the next morning with waiting for Mr. Sheridan. Claudius, are you joining them?
Yeah, we'll say that I got her on a boat like in the small hours of the
Sure.
morning.
Sure.
Back
And
to
you're
New
sending
York.
her home with?
With an escort. I've hired some people there. Frankly, they're probably people that I had from that I had asked at some point previous to come to Egypt, and just in case, and sent her with, we'll say, some employees or something.
Okay, that sounds great. So the three of you are sitting and waiting, and in walks Mr. Sheridan. First, let's back up, because we should have done this earlier. Claudius, can you describe yourself?
Yeah. Sorry, I kept meaning to do that as well.
That's all right.
Claudius is tall, about 6'3", lean, not frail by any means, but just lean. He always wears long-sleeved shirts, button-down shirts. When you guys see him, he dresses fairly nicely for casual wear. Every time you see him, his hair is kind of wavy, nearing curly, but wavy and auburn, like a dark kind of a russety color. And once his passport photo pops up, you can kind of see hair length and stuff. He does have a matching goatee. He smokes a pipe and carries himself, very confidently, very self-assuredly. But is, I believe the note that I put in my traits was disarmingly charming. So not even necessarily that he's trying to be charming or saying something, but he's got a very nice smile that tends to disarm people and ease tensions. So, handsome.
Sure. All right.
What is his age?
35.
35?
Yep, 35.
God, I always pictured Jewel a lot older than that.
That's just because she was stern.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sturdiness adds a few years.
Yeah. I almost put something about her being sturdy in there, but I think that's something that everybody else says about Jewel. I don't think it's something she often says. Something I say about Jewel.
So, Mr. Sheridan, you arrive to this breakfast meeting. You spoke with Dr. Kafour, who had suggested this group to you, and then verified yesterday with you that they were willing to meet with you and wanted you to meet them for breakfast. He made it very clear that they are much like a wild animal backed into a corner, so approach with care.
Sounds fine.
Tell me, describe your character for us.
So, Bobby Ray Sheridan is, and I will probably change that name because I was picking out a name and I was like, I need something that sounds like it's from the Appalachians, and I chose Bobby Ray without even thinking, oh yeah, because it's been so long, it's been months. I was like,
Right.
I forgot. My character's name is Bobby.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
because my character,
you can be Billy Ray.
yeah. So I'll probably end up changing it to Billy
Are
Ray.
you Billy Ray?
But then you'll hurt our achy breaky heart.
Yeah.
Well, see, when I hear Billy Ray, I think of Billy Ray Valentine, and he's obviously just going to steal millions of dollars.
Yeah, probably.
I'm still good with it, so.
Either way.
But so he is a angry and stern in the face looking man. Young in appearance, but at the same time short. He's about 5'3" compared to the rest of this group. But he has broad shoulders, kind of a barrel-shaped build. If I had to compare him to any like fictional character, there would be two. Physically, I would say like the Marvel character of Puck. You know, kind of that short, square build, but muscular. But on the other side of that, I based this character and a little bit around Peter Lorre. Because when I think of like the noir movies of the 1920s and 30s, Peter Lorre was in a lot of them, and so kind of that background gangster character. But yeah, especially Casablanca, that's kind of that appearance, and so yeah.
So you approach the table. The three of them are sitting with no food yet. Doesn't look like anything's been ordered.
Yeah, I'm just smoking my morning pipe.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm looking for Mr. Lockhart and Mr. Hardgrove.
And you would be Mr. Sheridan?
Yeah, that's me. So,
then I'm Lockhart.
Have a seat.
Thank you very much. I look around the room briefly as I sit down, looking at all the other patrons to see who's here and how far away they are, things of that nature.
It's lightly populated. Looks like a bunch of French and British kind of, wouldn't say aristocrats, but money people that are here on vacation or don't have a lot of care in the morning about what they're doing. Nobody's running off to work here. They're just kind of here enjoying their morning. So nobody really that close. You kind of found yourselves again up against the wall, away from everybody.
I just nod after a moment and sit down and kind of lean forward.
Sorry.
Please.
Mr. Sheridan, obviously Dr. Kaffour told you about Dalphus and myself. This is another of our recent associates. This is Claudius Rumtree.
And he stands up and reaches to shake his hand.
I stand up quicker and shake his hand.
He's actually, I don't know what Dr. Kaffour told you. One of our associates, Jewel Rumtree, is recently been indisposed, and he's actually Claudius here is actually going to be filling her role in our little group.
If you can believe it, her shoes were bigger than mine, so I won't be filling her shoes, but I'll at least be, trying to take her place as best I can. I'm not as pretty as she was.
Well, it's an honor to meet all of you. So, let's get down to business then. Dr.
Yes, so what is it that Dr. Kaffour believes you are able to help us with exactly?
Well, Dr. Kaffour says, first and foremost, y'all have seen quite a bit of danger here. It's the best way I can put it, and so I want to put all of y'all at ease. So, full disclosure, how about we go there first?
Always works for me.
Claudius empties his pipe and tucks it away.
My pappy was not a good man. I'm going to start there. I'm going to pull out a envelope that's laminated in wax. He was part of a group out of Providence, Rhode Island that eventually, let's just say they had to leave and they started working around the Appalachians. And I picked up a lot of trades working alongside of them. Things of the nature, I'm quite a capable mechanic and an electrician. So there is that, but to my pappy. My pappy was like I said, not a good man. He was a part of a group, it turns out. And I unfurled the envelope and began to pull out a few pieces of contents. They looked to be newspaper clippings. And it's not exactly an easy topic for me to talk about, but he was a part of a group that liked to call themselves the Church of the Starry Wisdom. Bunch of Appalachian boys and believe in things and talk about things as far away from Christian thoughts as possible. About 15 years ago, and I pull out one newspaper clipping. I set it down in front of you. Word came down from the mountain, and he killed my entire family. I set it out in front of you, and it's a newspaper article detailing essentially a murder scene and denoting me as the only survivor on the scene, saying that my father was the killer and was on the run. He, let's say, fled, and eventually he was cornered by law. And I pull out another article, and it shows a home that had burned down. In the course of a brief fight of some sort, they don't know if it was kerosene or what, but the home my father had been hiding in burned around him, and they did not manage to recover his body. But that was around about 15 years ago. I wasn't entirely certain he was dead. And then this. And I'll pull out one last article. And it talks about a expedition here in Cairo. And there are people working at one of the sites, looking into the pyramids, and pictured there, I point at a man and say, "That there is my father."
What are we seeing in the picture? What site dig or pyramid or?
I was
Is it-
going to leave
Hold
that.
on.
Is that the Clive expedition?
Roll. Can I get the professor to roll archaeology?
Mm-hmm.
Might as well let you check a box.
Let us check the boxes.
Yeah,
What's
that
the
would
box?
be a hard success.
Do you have one picked out?
I didn't. I
Bobby?
was going to leave that up to you, since I didn't want to mess with your story or anything.
No, that's fine. How long ago was it?
3-4 years ago.
Oh,
Could it be 2 years earlier than that?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like 6 years ago?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's the Carlisle expedition. That's them at the collapsed pyramid, quote unquote, digging. He looks like he's just one of the people there. Doesn't look like he's one of the primary people. Definitely not an architect. He's definitely not an architect. Not an archaeologist. But one of the men involved, and one of the few white men there.
You say the collapsed pyramid?
Yes, that's where they supposedly pulled a body out of.
Okay. Well, isn't that a coincidence?
What? Is that the dig site? Is that a picture from the Carlisle expedition?
Indeed, it is.
Interesting.
Oh, that's...
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I have to step away just a second. The dog needs to go out. I'll be able to hear you.
That's important. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so keep going.
Yeah, go for it.
So, like I said, my father killed my family. And I sold pretty much everything I had. What little property I had, anything else, got my stuff together and came here in pursuit of him. Fact of the matter is that it is my intent to find him and either bring him to justice or perform justice.
interesting.
I know this doesn't exactly put me in the best terms, but the fact of the matter is that I came here looking for him. I got to meet Dr. Kafour. It's not exactly easy when main language you speak is English, finding work around here. But I've been searching all of Cairo and trying to find him. Had a few dust-ups with a few people here. And that's the best way I can put it. I have not found him yet. But Dr. Kafour tells me that you're looking into something similar. And he said that the way he put it to me was that if I'm looking for my father, going with you might be the best way to find him.
It might be. We are neck deep in cults right now. I mean, to be brutally honest, to be brutally honest about it. I mean, everywhere we've turned from New York, England, to here has been nothing but confronting various cults, and they may or may not be all connected. I lean towards personally that they are. The church you said your dad was a member of, I don't believe is a name we've heard recently, so I can't say if it's connected or not.
It's not exactly a well-known group.
Does Mr.
I wrote that down in my little notebook, by the way. Who told us that?
Did Mr. Dr. Kafour, did he think that your father or your father's church was part of something that might have been? Well, I mean, okay, we've mentioned it already. There's cults and death cults and things like that. Is that another one?
I would describe it as such.
I mean, Jewel had some notes about the cult of the bloody tongue and then the cult of the
Black Pharaoh.
Was it the Black Pharaoh? And she had a note that they were the same thing. Could this, would you say, Starry Wisdom?
Church of the Star of Wisdom, yeah.
Mr. Sheridan, roll a cult for me.
I have a working theory that I'm very interested in discussing with our friend in Australia.
All right. That is a success. Regular success.
So what you know is that cults pop up from time to time, but in a larger kind of global conspiracy, it's very unlikely that kind of thing would happen. They're usually very insular, and from your study, burn out sometimes very quickly and very violently.
Yeah. I don't think it's associated, but I will say it was a cult. I mean,
well,
anytime another pastor came in the area, a Lutheran or a Methodist or a Baptist pastor came in, they didn't warn them away. A couple men would go out at night and pastor this wouldn't be seen again.
There's a couple pastors I can think of that could do with that. Anyway, so, well, I mean, so what, you said that you do electrical repair and you're a mechanic and you know certain things about certain things that are pertinent to this. What do you guys call this? So you call this an investigation?
Call this attempt at saving the world.
Oh, wow. Okay. Then.
As lofty as that sounds, it may not be far from the truth.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I mean, does that sound like something that you want to be a part of, Mr. Sheridan?
Quite frankly, at this point, I think I'm coming. If I'm not going with you, I'm going the same direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I can't promise that we're going to find any leads to your dad, but at the same time, I don't think anything that we're looking into is going to hurt your cause at all. In fact, it might give you more information to work with to help track him down.
I've been here for 3 years, picked up a little bit of the local language. I'm a quick study, and I know how to handle myself out in the wild.
Are you willing to do some traveling?
At this point, yeah, because I don't think he's here anymore.
Because we're actually looking at getting out of here pretty darn quick.
I can get a boat by tomorrow if, I mean, I could probably get one a little earlier if we absolutely wanted to, but...
I'm not saying, we need to leave like today or tomorrow, but next couple of days. I don't want to rush things. I don't want to make mistakes in what we're doing or...
I do have
having, you accuse me of being paranoid, but I don't want to rush things and make it really obvious that we're leaving because I'm just afraid that people are aware of what we're doing, and I just don't want this to go sideways. I'd like, a good long rest where I'm not having to look over my shoulder the entire time.
Yes, it is. We do need to employ a bit of obfuscation in our travels.
So would you like to leave tomorrow, or would you like to give it a couple days?
Dalphus, I'm saying a couple days. Maybe we can lay a couple of false trails, like we're going to go back out to the pyramids to see if we can find out what happened. Just lay some false trails so that when we leave town, it's not quite clear where we're going.
Out of character question.
Yeah.
I assume even Dalphus missed because we were supposed to meet with Dr. Clive.
Yeah,
Way
well, everybody's missed that. Nobody was in the right physical shape to go. The doctors would not let them out.
Has anybody
hospital.
reached out to him, or is that still something that...
No one has reached out to him that I am aware of.
Okay. I was just bringing it up because I remembered that was something that we had done before, but...
Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot about it too.
So, yeah. So, I mean, all I'm saying, gentlemen, is we can leave whenever you wish. There will be a boat. Whether I need to call another one in or I just reserve our spot on one that's already here.
I have to think about that because I think leaving is good. I just don't want to make it too obvious that we're heading out or what direction we're going in or anything like that.
That's fine. I've actually been perusing purchase of an estate from a gentleman that I read. I don't know. The stress has got too much for him, but I read he committed suicide, and he had lots of artifacts that I might be interested in. So I can take some time and busy myself until we're ready.
Okay, that sounds right. So, I guess decisions. I'm good with leaving in 2 days.
Okay.
So, real quick, before you guys get too deep into this, leaving is a good idea. I'm fully for that. Where are you going? That might be.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So while the four of you discuss that amongst yourselves, I'm going to hit the restroom.
Well, do we want to? It's 7:30. Do we just want to take a break real fast?
Yeah, let's take a break. That's
let's
good.
do a break.
All
okay,
right.
Cool.
We will take a 10-minute break, and we will be back. There will be a timer, and we'll see y'all here in 10 minutes.
Awesome.
See you back.
Bye. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Illuminated Page. We're just about to decide where we're going, so
Yes, where?
continue.
Where? So we mentioned a couple locations in our discussion last evening, but I don't think we ever actually decided where we were talking about going. Did you want to go to Australia, or are we talking about going up to Shanghai?
I think
Well-
Australia, we have a better lead. At
Or
least
did
we know
need to go
who to
somewhere
talk
else?
to.
Was there another place we needed to go?
Eventually,
Kenya.
yeah,
Kenya.
Into Kenya.
Yeah.
We thought Kenya was endgame,
Yeah.
like our end, but that's
Well, I mean,
Possibly the world's end if we don't get to Kenya with the right resources.
well, what was the briefly other recap going over notes?
Mhm.
Which, of course, I don't have any of my notes in front of me. They're sitting by my chair out there because I was working on Jules' journal. But, so we determined, or Dalphus determined by looking at the star charts and things like that, that something was going to, and even did the Black Pharaoh might have mentioned something too, but something about the eclipse happening in January of January 28th of 1926, was that the date or something?
I don't know if the date is right, but the month and year are right.
Okay, so it's somewhere in there. There's going to be a lunar eclipse or a solar
Yes,
eclipse.
a lunar eclipse, I believe.
Lunar eclipse. And I think Dalphus had pinpointed the date based on the star charts and the map and everything. Did we have a location for that? Because the map had the 3 locations. One was in Kenya.
China, Kenya, and Australia. They were marked by 3 uncut rubies.
Okay,
So the eclipse is going to take place across
all 3.
the area in the middle of them. If you
Right.
draw a triangle between the 3, it'll be the area in the middle that will have the
Yeah.
eclipse, and it will also affect Kenya, Shanghai, or China. We're not going to say Shanghai, just to forget that I said that. You definitely don't know to go to Shanghai. And Australia.
It was on it was on a matchbook that we had.
Yeah, no, we know to go to
Yeah,
Shanghai
we
because
have
we had the
Shanghai.
picture
Yeah,
of the.
no, I was kidding. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a triangle.
I've actually looked up this. You can actually pull up that chart for that eclipse
Oh, I'm sure you can.
because it actually existed. It was a real
Yeah.
thing.
Cool.
Actually, the research done for this module is pretty solid. It leaves a lot of cultural stuff out for each location, but they have a lot of information in this book. So you've got plenty of clues to tell you that China, probably Shanghai, somewhere in Western Australia, and then Kenya are the 3 points. And it sounds like would make sense that those are the 3 places that are allowed.
Right, and so in game, the knowledge we have is we don't have much on Kenya other than we're fairly sure that's where the cult is based on the painting that we got.
So you're
Stuff like
positive
That's where the
that's
cult of the bloody tongue is, correct?
You're positive that's where the Cult of the Bloody Tongue is.
Right.
You're positive that's where supposedly the Carlisle expedition died.
Right.
You have a name of a contact you could look up there, Kenyatta, Johannes Kenyatta, I think.
We
I'd have to relook at that.
I've got it written down somewhere.
And you're positive that the Mountain of the Black Wind is there.
Right.
It is a actual physical location.
And then we know to go to Shanghai because of the matchbook and the blurry picture we have of some yacht in the harbor of Shanghai.
Yeah, there's a Chinese junk in a harbor.
Yep.
So you're pretty solid on Shanghai. There was rumor about Hong Kong, but that's supposedly where Jack Brady was.
Right.
Okay. I was trying to think. Maybe the matchbook says Hong Kong. I can't remember if it says Shanghai.
No, it says Stumbling Tiger in Shanghai.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. I didn't think that I was meta gaming.
No.
And then Australia-wise, we know that we don't have
Darwin,
any connections.
Australia
For
is-
Australia, we don't have any
You do.
leads to cults there. We just know that the doctor so-and-so
Dr.
is
Cowles is there, and then the shipping manifest that
There you go.
that was gathered from the basement of the Miser House indicated Darwin, Australia.
Yep.
Which would lead you to believe that there are still cult members there, even if it's not
Right.
super strong.
And he
Yeah,
was,
I totally forgot about the shipping stuff. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
and what's his face? Gavigan was writing to Aubrey Serpinhu there, or we don't know where. I'm sorry,
No,
we don't know where.
where.
We don't know where, but we know that he's somewhere, and I mean, Australia's not a bad go, since we do know that there's probably cult members there. I guess it's the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh is what it was called, right? Not the Cult of the Black Pharaoh.
Correct.
Okay. So, are we thinking Australia?
I'm rather anxious to go to Australia. It may not make the most sense in direction wise,
but that doctor seems to might be able to shed some light on these death cults, because it seems it's more prevalent than we first expected.
Yeah.
we are so much closer to Kenya. However, I feel like I would rather have the knowledge that we may gain in Australia before going there.
I'm going to start my hands start trembling with the thought of Kenya after what we've been through in Cairo and the Carlisle expedition, and just the idea of going there where they were slaughtered after what we saw just totally unnerves me at this moment.
There are 0 pyramids there.
But when we saw, didn't we get the vision of them being slaughtered though?
You got a vision of a field of them. No, you did get a full vision of them being slaughtered. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, let's go to Australia.
We
Australia sounds good.
We basically saw the cover of the Masks of Nyarlathotep book, I think, didn't we? With
I forget what that looks like.
with Nyarlathotep on top of the the mountain of the Black Wind or whatever. And
yes, yeah.
I have it over here. Since we bought our new set of cool books.
Yeah, you're talking about the new one, because the old one, oh man, now I'm not, man.
What?
I need to
Yeah, no,
I need to
you're
get
not
over there and
coming
touch
up.
those books.
We'll tease you with it over the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on the 7th edition. It's a solid, so that would actually be the bent pyramid you guys just came from.
So basically my mask that I wear when I go out.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I shouldn't look in here.
No, you should not. I mean, you'd have to
Spoilers.
read a lot to
Yeah,
get
I'd just be skimming.
Well, and you'd also be like, I don't remember that at all, because you guys did not touch everything in every chapter.
Sure. I kind of want to get the handouts out though.
They are good handouts. Those are really good. And just to put, I'm going to plug Chaosium right now. They put out the 7th edition one is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's 2 books. It's pricey. I think runs $130. Is that
right?
right?
The box set was $129.99 at the game store we picked it up at.
So, it's pricey, but it's got quality handouts. It's got everything you need to run it. There are a couple other things you can pick up for relatively cheap. There's a companion book that was put out by Stone 61 Press. And it goes deeper into each city and each location and gives you more options. 7th edition also has an additional location that is not in the game we're playing currently in Peru. It's kind of done as a prologue. And then on top of that, the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society puts out a full prop set for this game.
And I think it's $160.
The full prop set is $375. The not quite full prop set is the like $165.
Does it include the game books too, though?
No.
Oh, really?
No,
okay.
The prop set is like you get individual passports and like there's a record player,
that's pretty
but it doesn't play records because you just plug the thing in. So you plug a USB in, so you have like
the sounds.
What looks like a record player playing songs from the time.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Wow.
It's fancy.
So that's if we ever all live in the same
Right.
place and we can just have a fun game.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Shawn ever wanted to move up here.
Move away from the south, Shawn. Move away. Come with us.
And we get snow. It's not much different.
Yeah, and the way my walking goes, I am not sure that ice and snow are my best friends.
That's fair. That's real fair. That's real.
That's true.
I don't have any issues with walking in ice and snow are not my friends at all.
Well, see, is what we can do, Shawn, is that now you just need to plan a time to come up,
Definitely.
and then like once or twice a year, and we'll just do like a huge like weekend out in a cabin somewhere.
Works for me.
A cabin in the woods. Definitely a great place to play a horror game.
Horror games.
Sounds fantastic.
You know, when John and I bought this house, we actually were looking at a house out in Cold Spring, Texas, which we wouldn't have had internet, so we would have never been able to do. But the whole purpose of buying it was it used to be a church, and the whole bottom was just like this huge common room because it was a church, and it had a kitchen and I think another room on the main floor, and then upstairs was a full 4-bedroom house with a kitchen and a living room. And that was where like their Sunday school classes and stuff were. But it had been converted from a cabin, and we considered it. It was actually really affordable. It was only like $100,000, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. But we were like, man, this would be great to have like disconnected gaming weekends.
Yeah.
You know, like let's take a long or even a week and let's just all go out, set our phones aside, you know, and we don't get good internet out here anyway. Let's just play some games and enjoy company. But
yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
It got sold before we got to it. So anyway, back to the matter.
So you have 3 locations. If you're leaning towards Australia, that's fine. It is a long distance travel to Australia and Shanghai. Both of them are going to be quite a distance.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, and Roxanne's idea on it. My idea on it is that I think we should go ahead and get that over with and get out there to that side of the map and do those things before it gets too late towards that date that we have, and we won't have time to do it.
No, I'm good with going to Australia. I mean, in fact, I think we might get some additional information.
And the Orient Express does exist right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do we know how long that trip is from where?
It doesn't go to China.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, we'd have to go.
No, it goes, well, I don't think
I'm sure it's in one of the books somewhere. I'll look it up later.
It doesn't go all the way to Hong Kong or Shanghai.
Well,
I do know that.
It would not be as quick as a boat, but it would still work.
Right.
But I would have to get a whole other module out for that. I'm just letting you know. Because Horror on the Orient Express is, you know.
That's a whole sub quest if we take that.
So the Orient Express technically only goes to Istanbul.
Okay.
But
so
then from Istanbul there is another train that will go all the way out to Vladivostok.
Okay.
It can't go back to Constantinople, right?
No, it cannot. It's been a long time gone.
Yeah.
Constantinople.
It's nobody's business but the Turks.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah. Well, not the Turks anymore.
Okay, so we're going to Australia in 2 days.
We're gonna go play with koalas and kangaroos. I mean, what's the worst that can happen in Australia? I mean, it's like, you know, already everything there wants to kill you. So,
could you?
Also wallabies and Australia. Now that we've chosen this and it's too late, you're not going back. Has like 4 pages on how to survive the outback in the module.
Nice. Well, I brought my safari clothes, gentlemen, so I'm looking forward to this.
I mean, you know, I'm pretty much a city boy. I mean, during the war, I spent some time in the woods, but nothing like this.
You are looking at a 16-day, probably more like 20-day trip by boat.
Okay.
Yay, we can rest our sanity.
It'll be April, mid-April by then.
See, I told you it was April, Roxy.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So yeah, you'll end up going from. Oh wait, I read that wrong. Sorry. No, it's a 12-day, so more like 15-day trip.
Okay.
Sorry,
Still,
I misread that. I ran you from Southampton, and you're not in Southampton. You're in Port Said.
Yeah.
So it'll be about 15 days, and you're going to stop a couple of places on the way. That's why it's a couple extra days than the 12 it lists in the book.
That's fine.
So that's a trip you're going to take. We are going to do advancement, but we're not going to do it right now.
Okay.
What I want to do is have you guys do that off camera between this game and next.
Okay.
And we can talk about that after we come back. But I don't know that there's going to be a lot that we're going to do there anyway, as far as roles go right now. Other than you have time on the ship to learn things. But first, how quickly are you going straight to the ship? Like
we
a couple
said
of days?
2 days, yeah.
2 days, yeah.
Are you waiting for anything in particular during those 2 days?
I want to try and lay down some false trails because I'm uber paranoid at this point. I don't want people knowing where we're going.
Sure, that makes paranoid sense. Let's have you roll.
Is that a condition since the last game? Is that something that he picked up in our
Not
finale?
not technically, but like, go ahead and write it on your sheet, Aaron.
It is now.
No, I totally. I mean, I am down to 30 sanity from like 60 or 70 that I started with.
So let's we're gonna have you roll idea. That's a great idea. Or I'm sorry, intelligence.
Which says an idea right underneath it. So I was with you.
Yep. So roll intelligence and find idea.
I love the new dice set my wife got me. I rolled a 17. That is it's not an extreme success, but it is a hard success.
Okay. So you spend the four of you spend the couple of days making different plans. A little bit of money is spent doing it, hiring people and looking at this. One of you books a land route to Kenya. One of you books a water route to Kenya on like the cheapest boat you could find. One of you talks to some people about doing some more digging, but like nowhere near anywhere that makes sense. And then another one books passage for all of you to England. So they're like you have successfully left plenty of trails, and spent a little bit of money to kind of spread around the idea that you are definitely going.
Cool. David, can you scoot to your left just a little bit? Thank you.
That's not comfortable.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see if I can move you.
Are you moving me, or do I need to turn my camera?
Oh, if you can turn your camera, that'd be grade A. I've been sitting here moving everybody around here and there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna start asking them to move. Matthew.
Sorry, I had to scoot out of frame to turn my light on. It was starting to get dark in here.
That's fine. That's
right. Earlier I was trying not to eat on camera.
Hey, there we go.
That's all right. Thank you all for doing your best to be stemmed.
Right. So,
Center thyselves.
Besides that, is there anything else you guys want to do?
Claudius is actually going to try to buy Faraz Najir's shop. All of the artifacts that are in it, since he shot himself in the...
I was going to say, isn't that the guy we broke and he killed himself?
Yep.
We didn't intentionally break him. It was an
accident. In all fairness, you guys didn't break him.
Well, no,
he was pretty
the cult
broke.
had been broken him.
No, Jewel made a specific note in her journal that she did not know how it happened. She did not mean to do it, and she was quite troubled after she heard that gunshot. So, yeah, if he can buy that stuff and have it shipped back to us, he would do it. Claudius is okay with the artifact trade.
I'd actually go and help you catalog things and be like, yeah.
And Hardgrove's like, we can get the blood off that.
This one we should send to Miskatonic.
I really liked this mask when I saw it. I'll send that to the conservator straight away.
So here's the problem right now. Aaron and Dalphus are free to go. However, if it's clear that they're buying things that are questionable antiquities from property that is owned by the state now, because no next of kin, that could be a problem. Not to say that Claudius can't, or that
Claudius might
go with Claudius.
Yeah, Claudius.
I'm just gonna help catalog. I ain't buying.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Claudius is inquiring. He would inquire with the state and see what he could do.
And it also could be a problem if the state catches wind that you're leaving town and you have just laid down a bunch of tracks to make it look like you're leaving town. So
well, Claudius will ask, and if that's not a thing, then he would.
Sure.
He accepts no once
in a while.
So you
guys said I could come with you, right?
You go through. The professor helps you go through it, and between the two of you, recognize that maybe a quarter of the pieces are actually authentic. It's a lot of junk, and the pieces that are authentic, none of it is exceptionally expensive.
Okay.
So it's not that it's a bad collection; it's that he was a bad person hawking crap wares.
Okay.
It's a
and-
tourist trap.
Yeah, it really is. It's a guy to get wealthy people in Europe to buy stuff from him that may or may not be authentic. So the stuff that would be impressive is fake, and the
Okay.
stuff that's real is just
Meh.
it's okay. Maybe some pieces that could go to Miskatonic would be great, or some for a personal collection, but they would be accoutrement to the main pieces of those collections.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's what he would spend those 2 days doing then. It'd be inquiring and learning more about it.
If that's all you guys want to do, I'm good with that.
Out of character for a minute, I'm so tempted to send a telegram to Henry Clive and be like, "We're gone."
So
Missed
your
chance.
How do you spell that?
Aaron, you sent a telegram to Erica Carlisle that you had
Yeah.
more information?
I sent a telegram to her saying we have more evidence that her brother could be alive, and that I would send. And since telegrams are expensive, more information would be coming in the mail.
Okay, you know it's going to take like 2 weeks for a round trip on mail, right?
Right. Now that
So
we've
by
met
that, yeah.
but
that
no,
might-
now that we've met Claudius, I'm not so worried about financial backing.
Okay, well, but she has no way to get a hold of you once you leave. And your letter is going to go to a nebulous, no one knows where it goes place.
No, yeah, that's true.
Any response from you. That's all I'm saying.
No, yeah. I'm not looking for any response now. I'm good. I'm slightly.
I mean, we know we
bent
can. We know we can telegraph from Australia because we did it.
Sure.
So, you could just, if you haven't, I know you telegraphed her the other day. You might just send her another telegraph and be like,
Don't
there's-
contact me. I'll contact
"Don't."
you.
Yeah, I will contact you as soon as I know where you can send correspondence if needed.
Cool. Yeah, we'll do that. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Claudius, what city is your training in Australia?
My warehouse is in Sydney.
Okay. So the distance I told you was to Darwin, which
Okay.
is on the northern coast of Australia. Sydney is like the southeast coast.
Okay.
But also
Well-
Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane are really the big cities,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else is like weird little towns.
Right. I mean, it makes more sense for his warehouse to be in Sydney.
Sure, absolutely.
But after discussing with the other guys, I would definitely.
Where's that professor at? Is he in Darwin or is he in one of the major cities?
He's in Sydney, I think.
I need to look at the handout again. Hold on.
I
just a second.
believe he was in Sydney, and then it was the shipping manifest that mentioned Darwin specifically.
It is
Right.
yeah.
So I am good with heading towards Sydney so that we can talk with that with.
Because
what's his name?
worst
I gotta-
comes to worst, we can find a way up to Darwin.
Yeah, we'll just take a car drive.
That's why we're gonna need that How to Survive in the Outback, because we're just crossing the desert.
He is a professor at the University of Sydney in Australia.
What was his name again?
Anthony Cowles.
That's right.
A PhD, Dr. Professor Anthony Cowles.
It's Sir Anthony Cowles. David made a face. He's like, "Don't you dare when I get mine." Refer to me that way. I'm going for my footed. My foot. Like I said, I had a preacher who used to say, "Well, a BS is what you think it is, and a PhD is piled high and dry." But he
Piled high and dry. That's
but
a very good
he
word
had
to
a PhD. So I suppose if anybody knew, he would. He was only making fun of himself.
So, are you're not doing anything else before you go? I want to make sure I give you guys plenty of time to do stuff. There isn't anything necessarily that I'm leading you towards. I just want to make sure I can move forward without.
No, Claudius brought everything that he needs with him. And he had only been here, less than a week probably. So, however long we were there, because he got there pretty fast. But um, he he's all packed up and ready
Okay.
to go. He may reach out to his people in Sydney and just be like, "Hey, I'm coming." Uh,
Are you sending that telegram?
Yeah, I can send that telegram.
Okay, excellent.
And do we want to follow up with Dr. Clive before we leave? Because I think that is just going to open us up to more grief.
You just be like, "Hey, we're leaving. Sorry we missed our meeting, but there was we lost two of our people, and our interests have shifted."
Better yet, heading to Kenya. Peace out. We'll see you later.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I would say, Aaron, I don't know that you would want to contact Dr. Clive.
No.
That doesn't quite fit your paranoia.
No, I don't want anything to do with him. But but as a group, do we want to close that loose end before we go?
Yeah, we can tell him we're going to Kenya.
Cool. Someone else do it because I don't want to talk to him.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, remind me
Clive
who
was
Dr. Clive is and why we were going to talk to him.
Clive was the leader of the expedition in Memphis.
They were the ones who were looking. They were digging, and they had found, I think, the tomb of, or the sarcophagus of Nitocris, and it went missing. And there was reports and rumors that things had been stolen from their dig, and they had that really douchey security guy.
Right, which was a member of the Penhew Foundation.
That was a member of the Penhew Foundation, or at least associated with them.
Yeah, an employee of.
And we were going, but Clive didn't want to discuss, and neither did his security person. So Clive was going to meet with us privately so that we could ask more questions about, because there was no evidence that people had been in and moved this thousands of pounds of sarcophagus and body. It was just gone. And so we were going, but he never really, it was really weird the way that he was kind of talking about it. So we were going to go talk to him
about the capstone, actually.
About the yes, because we showed him a picture of the broken capstone that you had, Dalphus, from the Red Pyramid, and we said we would meet him later. We did not want to carry it with us there.
Which my notes are showing we were already suspicious that he was probably involved in this stuff because
we were being very
Martin
cautious.
Winfield.
Yes, we were being very cautious and had determined that when we did meet him, we were going to change the location last minute in case it was an ambush, because we were all pretty paranoid at that point.
So if you think this guy is people, I'm just trying
have we
this.
updated you on the Penhew Foundation? Are you aware of the Penhew Foundation?
I would expect in the couple of days that you have updated both the characters as much as possible.
Yeah.
Why not? If this person could be giving out information, why not tell them we're head someplace not related?
What, like? Well, we could just say we
back to New York or someplace else.
Yeah, we're escorting.
Going to Peru.
We're escorting Miss Rumtree back to New York before we continue our.
That's as good a lie as any.
I like it.
Yeah. Claudius can write. Doesn't know. I don't think it makes sense for him to write it, or reach out.
I say we have Dalphus could send a message because they both in the same field. They both know
doctors,
each other.
And they had glad-handed before.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are headed to Australia. You've covered everything you can in Egypt. A couple of things about Australia, because they didn't do all this work for the book for me to not tell you. So in Australia in the 1920s is a modern country built upon immemorial roots. Basically, it is a giant continent. It's bigger than you think it is. And because of a lack of infrastructure, it takes far longer to go from one place to another. While it is the 20s, horse and buggy are not out of the question. It's just a lot of the smaller towns just don't have cars or trucks or things like that.
Can't the whole of the United States fit into Australia?
I don't think it's quite that big, but it might be.
I know I've seen some interesting graphics of it, but I couldn't remember what the scale was.
I want to say the whole United States can, but North America can't.
Right, like Canada Canada and
Yeah.
Mexico can't.
So Australia is slightly bigger, about 1.3 times bigger than Australia.
Australia's
it-
bigger than Australia?
Yeah, so it like if you laid Australia over top, parts of a big chunk of Texas would be out, Washington State would be out, and then all of the Northeast and
Okay.
Florida. But
Eight.
otherwise, the entirety of the U.S.
Most of
and
it.
parts of Canada fall in.
So we're looking at roughly 2,000 miles across, and
To give you an idea, going from Darwin to Sydney would be like going from, that's got to be
Houston to Arizona.
It would be like going from Jacksonville, Florida, to way up in Canada, like north of Montana.
Okay.
So we're talking, it's a large country.
Yeah.
I mean, the distance from Sydney to Melbourne is essentially Atlanta to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And they're close together.
Right. Okay.
It's just a huge distance, and there's no infrastructure. So it further complicates things.
Right.
Um,
There's no Tom Nook.
Yeah. Australia is technically an independent dominion within the British Commonwealth. Internally, it's a federation. There's no real taxation, so that there's no real standard rail gauge. There's a lot of problems. So, like, you aren't going to find a railroad track that will lead you from one side to the other.
Sure.
You would find one from one city to another, and then you would have to get off the train to get on another train because the gauge is different.
Sure. Okay.
The interior of the island, mostly the western 2/3, is just strikingly eroded terrain, including single rocks the size of small mountains, including Ayers Rock, which is enormous. It is the size of a large city, and it just juts out of the middle of the continent.
Okay.
The far eastern side, where Sydney is a pretty fertile belt, but that's about it. The rest of it is, and it can get kind of tropical the farther south you go, farther north you go, but the rest of it is pretty desolate. There was a major gold strike in the west about 30 years ago, so there has been a lot of people heading that way. Most notably, Australia is currently at war with emus.
Okay.
It's not a joke.
No, yeah, I know.
Emus, it turns out you can't mow down with a machine gun. Australia is exceptionally racist to the Koori clans, which we would know by a racial term that I am not comfortable using anymore.
Okay.
But when you think of natives of Australian, they are the Koori clans typically.
Okay.
And since the discovery of Australia by Cook, the native population is about half what it was. Sorry, I'm more looking for. There we go. Okay, so that's basically the idea. So Darwin is kind of like a weird northern outpost on the on the northern edge of the northern top of the island. It's still going to be a couple of days by boat to get over to Sydney if that's where you guys are headed to speak to Dr. Cowles, which makes sense. But that will be a stop. One of the first stops you'll make once you hit Australia is the boat's going to stop in Darwin no matter what.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So do we need to find... So, okay, knowing that, then... yeah, we'll find... I assume there'll be somewhere to stay up there if we want to stick around for a couple days.
Okay.
And then we can get from boat... or we can get by boat from Darwin to Sydney.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's probably the safest, so we don't have to go through the desert, but that could be my fear of the desert.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's great travel plans.
Okay. Cool. If I know you gave us all that time to do all that stuff. If there was a way to set that up, get a hotel or prepare somebody to say, hey, get me something in Darwin when we get there, but I'm cool with just doing that on the fly when we get there. I think Claudius can probably talk his way into something.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey. Stop.
Sorry, just a second.
That's all right. That's all right.
I got a question about something.
This is a huge module, ladies and gentlemen, so when you have to find something, it takes a second.
So you guys are headed to Darwin. Is there anything you want to study on the ship or anything you want to do while you're on the ship? This would be a good time to maybe pump up some languages that you haven't used that you might need, although Australia is...
Claudius is excited to get back to an English-speaking country, quite frankly. He doesn't speak
English
much.
is going to be the predominant language, and any other language is going to be very difficult. Like any native language is going to be very difficult to find somebody to teach you.
Sure.
So if you guys want to pump up on languages, that's great. China is coming, so learning a little bit of Mandarin might not be a bad idea.
Actually, Dalphus speaks a little Mandarin.
Okay.
Claudius?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at your
Like,
name.
do I?
No, I was looking at your name, and my brain got confused. No, yeah, Claudius speaks a little Mandarin. I had a question. Oh, Claudius would probably approach the professor at some point during that journey and be like, I sent a good portion of what Jewel had with her, some of her bags and things back home, but I kept some. But one thing that I didn't notice, and I didn't know if maybe you had grabbed it, she talked about some manuscript that she had read and learned some interesting things. Do you have that copy of the Narcotic manuscript?
Do I have that?
Somebody does.
Somebody when I
trunks.
I assume
We could
somebody
we could
grabbed
say
it.
that I have it. That's
Okay,
fine.
just for
It's in our baggage.
do you mind letting me take a look at that?
Sure. Yeah, if you finish that, I have a few others that you might find interesting.
Well, I'll keep that in mind.
Weren't some of the other ones in like really Latin and weird languages though?
Yeah, he can't read a whole lot, but he's gonna at least flip through the Narcotic manuscript. I can't remember if it's in Latin or not, or Greek.
I thought that one was translated into English, wasn't it?
It may have been.
I can look that up. That's not that big of a deal.
But
I
he
was
does
gonna
take time
read
to
over
read her
one or
journal.
two of those on our trip too.
Yeah,
Sure.
Claudius does take time to read her journal more closely and compare it with the letters that she wrote.
Okay.
I am going to go super paranoid, and I want to. I'm not sure how we do it on the ship. Increase my fighting, my brawl.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sign up for the Bare Knuckles Boxing League that happens down in the lower decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. we
I'll
can
brawl
go.
with the sailors.
You'll need to roll.
Well, it sounds like Bobby Ray wants to fight.
We'll say it. Roll a d6 and add that to it.
I can teach you a few things.
Okay, that works too. Now, I did, since we leveled up last time, I did increase in fighting brawl. So should I just go ahead and roll the d6 now and then do my roll for that later? Or just roll the 6 and just use that as my increase?
I would just hold off and wait until we increase that later.
Okay, and then roll the d6? Cool.
Yeah. So Nakata Manuscripts is in English.
Sweet.
So is People of the Monolith and Life as a God. It's the Selections Delivered Devant, which is in
That was
French.
French, yeah. Cool.
I'm sorry. It's French commentary on the Latin original.
Right. And yeah, we talked about that with Kafor.
Yeah.
But yeah, so does Dalphus need to roll anything for this narcotic thing?
No, if he's got Dalphus.
Well, I didn't know if I'm
Claudius.
sorry, not Dalphus. Gosh, why do I keep saying that? Our names are nothing alike. Claudius, yeah. Does he need to roll
Okay.
anything to look at it and touch it and
sure
stuff?
does.
Loss of sanity.
1d8.
I go ahead and lose just auto sanity loss.
Yeah, so you're going to lose a d8 if you read the narcotic manuscripts.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. I lost 4.
That's not bad. You just start off with a bunch of sanity. You're doing fine.
Yep.
And then you're going to gain 10 points in Cthulhu Mythos, which then means you black out the first 10, or the last 10 points of your potential sanity.
Right. I'll do that. I'll just let's see. I can.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
I can write it in up here. Oh, it does it. We're using the PDFs, and the PDF does it automatically.
Oh, fantastic.
So I have a max sanity of 89 now.
Yeah. It doesn't give you anything spell-wise,
Okay.
but it does. Claudius, you lost 4 sanity.
Yeah.
He was relatively sane before, right?
I had 70.
Okay, so essentially Claudius's eyes have been open to the fact that not just that Jewel was right, but Jewel didn't know enough. And maybe that's a good thing.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yep. No, he mutters to himself that he's glad that it's hard to be glad for the state that she's in, but he'd rather she was there than here.
Yeah. Is anybody else doing anything? Any reading? You,
Yes.
Dalphus, you said you were gonna. What have you read?
Let me go back and look here. I was going to ask you if you remembered which one.
I don't have notes on what you guys have read and what you haven't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you had pretty sure you had the one from Bobby had the Liber Avonus, because he could read
spoke
French.
And he got that spell. Yeah.
And then the one that you had was the one written by the crazy guy, Montgomery.
Life is a God.
Yeah, Life is a God.
Life is a God. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
that was the
remember
one that
reading
you
one.
read.
And then I think I read the one about the
Chthonians.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Chthonians.
that's people of the monolith.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you have read Life is a God, and you have not read the other 3.
I thought I had read one of the other ones at our last period of time to be able to do something.
What's your Cthulhu Mythos at?
It is at 6.
Do you speak French?
I don't believe I speak French. No. No.
So then either you didn't record the percentile increase for Cthulhu Mythos, or you didn't read a book. I'm not sure where you got. I think I gave you 2 at the beginning, and then you got 4 from Life is a God, and I don't know where the other 2. I'm not positive where the 2 came from.
I
But
mean,
the other ones
Claudius will
give.
bring back the Narcotic manuscript if you.
It's actually going to take you almost the full 2 weeks to read and digest all of that.
Okay, then I'm not going to bring it back. I'll give it to you at the end.
I might have been planning to read a book and hadn't had the chance to yet.
Yeah,
That's
we've
okay.
been pretty busy.
Yeah. So selections delivered to Vaughn or People of the Monolith.
Yeah, you never read about the Chthonians.
Yeah, it's a really interesting read.
Well, I don't speak French, right? So
Sure. So People of the Monolith.
let's see, I wrote in my notes, we have the Latin version. I'm guessing that's back at the university though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Arkham or Miskatonic has the Latin, but when we were in Cairo, did Kafor let us look? Because he let us look at
The Necronomicon.
the Necronomicon, but isn't that the same thing?
No.
Oh, were they not
no.
the same thing? I thought the book that the French commentary was on essentially the Latin version of the Necronomicon.
No, it's on a book about a book called Liber Avonus.
Right.
It's a very different book.
Okay. Yeah, but no, we saw Alhazred's mad writings. I suppose Sheridan's probably seen that.
So People of the Monolith for you, Dalphus.
Sure.
Yep, that works.
All that.
Okay.
So you'll gain 3 Cthulhu Mythos. You'll roll a D3 and lose that much sanity.
Find my dice roller.
Why did I get 10 Cthulhu Mythos? Is the narcotic
That is
man-
what the book gives.
Oh, wow. So I
A
just got
D3, you said?
the beefy
Yeah.
one.
1d3.
No, my character, I'm going to be
I rolled a 2.
looking at topographical maps of the area and studying up on the wilderness of
Cool.
Australia. That's more my character's speed.
So why don't you roll a d6 and add that to
Natural world.
Survival? is more-
survival, natural world, or science geography?
Survival it is.
Freddy.
There we go. Yeah, my character,
He's had enough with the...
the whole cult experience for him is kind of worn.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys, you're getting a place in Darwin for a couple of days. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. Yeah, when we get there, Claudius will figure it out.
Oh, and that's something else on the journey in between your reading of your book. I'm going to share the notes that we got from the Miser House on the items that were being shipped to and from Darwin
Okay.
to see if you can make any of the, using your experience as a shipping
As a
mogul.
shipping person. I don't
Do
know.
you have do you have points in accounting?
Me?
Yeah.
I have the base in accounting.
Are there skills on your sheet that reflect your shipping mogulness?
Other than your credit rating.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, let me see here. Maybe not directly. Oh,
Okay.
appraisal. Does that?
Yeah, that we'll let you have that. That's fine.
Ooh.
Okay, let me get my die here. Roll some appraise. No.
And then go ahead and roll me accounting. I know it's a 5%, but whatever.
Whatever. I'll give it a shot. No.
So basically, what you can
Looks
put
like
together
shipping
is
stuff.
what now?
I said it looks like shipping stuff. To,
Well,
from.
what you can put together is this is an illegal ledger.
Oh, okay.
None of this stuff listed here. It has the right notations that you would expect.
Okay.
You know enough about shipping manifests to know that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But that was expected when they explained it to you. From what you guys kind of figured out is that they're bringing the artifacts directly to Miser House
Right.
and not shipping them legally.
Okay.
At least not into England. Maybe from the other places, but not into England.
Okay.
There's also not enough notes in there on what is shipped. It's very, very vague.
Okay.
The only thing that you really notice is an invoice number 32121 from April 9th of 1924.
32121.
Wait, what was the number?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is April 9th of 1924. What did you say?
The shipping number. What was that again?
32121.
32121.
Yep. And it says 60 centimeter statuette of Yig, solid gold. And this one is going out to Hofong Imports, Shanghai.
Hofong Imports, Shanghai.
Shanghai.
I feel like I remember that a little bit.
I think you guys found this earlier.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you
Claudius
wouldn't-
hadn't seen it, so.
Yeah.
Cool. I jotted it down. I'll be sure to put that
Excellent.
in the notes.
All right. Darwin is a town of a few thousand. It's located on a narrow peninsula. Mr. Sheridan, you know that from studying that Darwin is the biggest city for more than 1,000 miles. That's how empty the Northwest Territory is. It also has a pretty diverse racial profile because it's so close to to East Asia, and because a lot of people that came for the gold rush came through there. I'm sorry. I wouldn't say that it is a shanty town, but it is definitely not. It would be like if a city in the Wild West was built on the ocean. That's kind of what you're seeing. So it's a lot of wooden structures. There are a few brick and stone structures, but most of it is like wood, and a lot of the older buildings have been warped by the tropical climate.
Okay.
So really weathered and beaten without being extremely dusty and dirty.
Right. So the city does have some stone-placed roads, but that's about it. Everything else is dirt roads, and a lot of the times they're sand roads as they get closer to the water.
Okay. All right.
So if you find a place to stay, it's going to be a questionable hotel at best, maybe.
Sure.
And you're not probably going to find a lot of hotel options.
That's fine. As long as we can find some sort of inn. I mean, I'm imagining just like a D&D village.
Sure. Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is that the boat's going to be there long enough to unload and load and then probably move on. So you could just stay with the ship.
Oh, okay.
But that's up to you guys.
Yeah,
how long is it going to take? How long is the boat going to be there?
A half a day.
Okay. Do we need to get off and try to talk to anybody, or do we want to look into anything, or?
I mean, there's nothing that really came up out of the shipping stuff, so I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah. Okay, then let's just stay on the boat. We're paid through Sydney, so.
Yeah. Okay.
That works for me.
So heading to Sydney. Go the other way. There it is. Sydney is a much larger city. That's unhelpful, actually. Yeah, that's all completely unhelpful. Sydney is a much larger city, what you would expect from a proper European or American East Coast kind of city. It's not huge, but it definitely it has plenty of people.
Sure.
David, has your character been to Australia?
I don't know. It's nothing that I really wrote into it, unless for some reason there would have been a case in there. I don't. Probably not, though.
Okay. Well, I mean, you could have gone on, you could have traveled there to do guest lecturing or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
it wouldn't have been much.
You did know the guy, right? I think you did know Cowles.
Well, knew of him, but didn't know him, I thought.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was it.
So the university is pretty easy to find. And the house of Dr. Cowles is also pretty easy to find. Where do you want to go and try and find folks?
What day of the week is it?
It's a weekday.
Is it a weekday or a weekend?
Yeah, it's a weekday. By the time you guys get in, it's probably just after lunch in the middle of the week.
All right, then we could probably go to the university.
Okay. Can I get you all to roll luck for me? Every one of you.
Everyone is.
I still feel lucky. And I got a 24. That is lucky.
Whoo, I rolled a 2.
Not me.
That is an extreme success if you didn't know.
So I got a yes from Claudius, a no from Sheridan. Who else?
I got a success.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys find your way to the archaeology department and find the office of Dr. Cowles to find him just kind of shutting the door and locking it to leave. And as he turns around, he says, "Dr. Hardgrove?"
Yeah, Mr. Claudius. Hi.
Can we
Alice?
stop saying each other's names?
Dr. Cowles.
Ah, what are you? I didn't know you were coming to visit.
We're here a little sooner than we had expected, and we got here before any correspondence would have arrived, or otherwise I would have let you know ahead of time.
Well, I was just headed to tea with Professor Dodge. You are familiar with Professor Dodge. You've heard of him. He's not top of the line, but he's, from what you've heard, he's a good professor. He teaches the basics and a little more intermediate classes, but he's not by any means a world leader in knowledge.
Oh yes, Professor Dodge.
Yep.
Would we be imposing if we asked to join you?
I would expect him to be quite interested in seeing you as well. I don't know that I know your
Claudius
companions.
Rumtree.
Companions, allow me to introduce you.
Claudius, good to meet you. He shakes your hand pretty firmly. And the other two...
I'm like kind of staring at him with suspicion, and I'm going to hold my hand out and be like, Aaron
This
Lockhart.
is Mr. Lockhart.
Mr. Lockhart, pleasure to meet you. And you, sir?
And Mr. Sheridan.
Ah, yes, Mr. Sheridan. Yes, let's. There's a tea place for tea just around the corner. Let's head there and tell me what. And he just kind of starts walking. He has his like his brief bag in his hand, and his hat in his other hand. Just walks towards the door, puts it on, puts the hat on as he goes outside. So, what brings you to Australia?
Well, I was really
Dead
hoping to
people
speak
and
with
old
you about a few
things.
things that you are quite knowledgeable in, and I'd like to compare some notes with
Absolutely.
you and some things that we've recently discovered on our journeys.
Absolutely. Does it? Do you? Where have you been journeying recently?
Here and there.
The dodgiest question answer of all. Here, there, other places.
To and
We've been
fro
some
within
things.
the earth. What do you do about it? No, this is a long way from meeting Gavigan. Aaron has come a long way. Well, let me tell you, we started in New York where I murdered a couple people because they murdered my friend, and then we had to run from the cops, and we ran to.
Hello,
Yeah.
person that is clearly an enemy of mine. Let me tell you everything I've done. Oh, hi, friend. I'm not telling you nothing.
I have a birthmark on
worked
my
out.
left cheek.
It worked out.
That's how they can identify my body.
Yeah. That it's. I would love to hear more about your most recent researches, and I've been giving some lectures about some of the cults down here that were well received when I was in New York. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But what parts of my research were you most interested in?
The cults, indeed, are what we're here to talk about.
Can I get everybody to give me a psychology?
Show.
I think I'm going to get that
All right,
good,
come
good
on,
of a
pass
score
this
again.
time. Come on. Yep,
Nope,
got
failed.
it that time.
Oh,
That-
can I-
Check that box.
can I
That
push
is
my
a
luck?
hard success.
You absolutely can.
Okay, so I'm going to spend 2 points to get me down to 10. So that's
Okay,
a
that's
success.
not pushing your luck.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I spend luck to?
Yes, absolutely. Pushing your luck is when you ask for a reroll to try and get it.
No, I just spent. I was
Okay,
going to spend the
perfect.
2 points to get the success.
Yes, absolutely. He is not. I wouldn't say it's a mode of hero worship, but he clearly sees Dr. Hardgrove as his equal and is excited to speak with someone at his level. If that makes sense.
The rest of us are just the audience at this point.
Yeah, and it's not that he has disdain for any of you. It's just that it's not often you get to talk to someone at the top of your field.
Sure.
Academic
also-
appreciation.
Yeah, that also has a very different focus than you. So he's going to get to learn things that aren't necessarily in his wheelhouse normally.
Cool.
Well, I'd be happy to speak with you about the Colts. And he walks or holds the door for you all to go into the little tea shop. Sitting at one of the tables is a 5'11" man, dressed kind of like you would expect a professor to be dressed. but more of like a tropical professor. So like his top button's up, undone, his sleeves are rolled up, and he's kind of relaxed. It is warm here. It's tropical. And it's also like you're getting towards the beginning, or you're at the beginnings of fall when it kind of gets hottest. He says, and the man stands up and says, "I'm Professor David Dodge. Are you Professor Hardgrove from Miskatonic?"
Indeed, I am. Pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you as well. Please, we'll get a bigger table. And he motions over to us a larger table, and he sits down and brings his tea over and motions for you all to join him.
Goodness, Dalphus, I didn't realize you were such a celebrity.
Oh, just in certain circles. Nothing that nobody cares about.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to brag, but I'm only.
So, what exactly were you looking for about the cult, Dalphus?
Well, on our recent expeditions, we encountered some. Well, we've encountered some cultists. I'll put it that way. To start with, but some information about these cults, and I was putting some things together, and I'd really like to share with you what I found and get your thoughts on it, and see what you know about some of these cults. It might fill in some of the missing pieces.
Absolutely. Tell me what I can answer for you.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me give you some cult names and see if they ring any bells, if you know anything about them. So, the Cult of the Bloody Tongue, the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh, and I'm looking for it. Was it the Cult of the Black Wind? Is that the other one that we had?
That is not one
that is a mountain of the mountain of the Black Wind.
Mountain
but
of Black Wind. We had another cult name that I don't see.
We had
right
the
in front
Church
me.
of the Starry Wisdom.
Oh, well, yeah, that's the new one. But we had another.
Are you thinking of the Cult of the Sandbat?
I have not heard that one yet.
So I'm not familiar with either of those. Although Pharaoh sounds Egyptian, I would have to accept. I would have to guess that it is something from there. My Egyptian knowledge is, I'd say, severely lacking. I've spent most of my time here studying up on previous earlier civilizations.
Well, the most curious thing that I have that I really wanted to speak with you about is since you are most knowledgeable about these death cults called. Typically, as I understand it, there's not a unifying group between separate cults.
Typically, no. Typically, there is not.
Well, interestingly enough, the information that we've come across here is pointing to that some of these cults from different continents with different names are connected and have been working in conjunction.
I see. That is... I mean, it is the age of technology. Perhaps they can communicate better now than they could have previously. So maybe the chance for them to connect would be available. But I don't know of any cults that transcend culture. Typically, a cult's tie to its culture is very thorough. Not many that I know of. Although there's a man that wrote a few books that might have some more information about that kind of tie. His name is Jackson Elias. You heard of him?
Yes, we're with Mr. Elias.
He's actually a really good friend of mine.
That's one of the roads of introduction that started us on this journey in the first place.
Now, I will be honest, Mr. Elias's writings are not always the most academic. He does write for a level of entertainment, but his information is almost always thoroughly researched and very spot on. I wouldn't call him an archaeologist by any means. He is definitely a writer, but he has the spirit of an archaeologist in him.
Actually, he was the one that suggested that we would come see you.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that is very nice. I've not met him, but maybe his my reputation precedes me.
This is a Roxanne question. He had been to it was on him that we found the flyer, right?
Yep,
It's
that's
correct.
what, that's what I'm saying. He suggested to come see him.
we believe that he may have been at the New York seminar. But, well, there isn't much of a spirit in him anymore.
What do you mean?
As far as I understand, I mean, I'm sure Professor Hardgrove and Mr. Lockhart here could explain in more detail. But my understanding is he was he got on the wrong side of some death cults.
Oh,
Yes, Mr. Elias was murdered by one of these cults, the cult of the bloody tongue. And his,
I mean, let's lay our cards on the table. I mean, he wasn't exactly murdered; he was butchered.
see, not to be insensitive.
my feelings on it is that he was investigating this group that was operating out of New York as part of his writings, and probably got a bit too close and stumbled into some information that they didn't want him having or putting out there, and they silenced him.
See, and now the four of you are following up on this?
That's one of the many parts that tie into it. Yes, that's kind of how part of this began, and then it led us into a new avenue with
Well, if
connection to some other expeditions that all tied together.
if he's dead, what did he say to pass you? Just to suggest you can speak with me.
Well, I wasn't there, so.
Well, so maybe I kind of was trying to hold my cards close to my chest. He didn't exactly tell us to. He had a pamphlet for your lecture in New York on Polynesian death cults on him.
Yeah, that has been a popular lecture. If I had known he was there, I would have been happy to speak with him personally. I can tell you more about the Polynesian death cult, specifically the bat cult that is here. That one is a little different in that it doesn't have ties just to Australia. There are several other Polynesian islands that have similar ones, but I've never found any information suggesting that they communicated. It was more that there was a base culture, and then as people moved to other islands, their culture changed, and so their worship and their beliefs changed along with it.
And this is, you said, the cult of the sandbat?
Yes, they're not all called cults of the sandbat, but the one here in Australia was the cult of the sandbat. All of them follow someone named the Father of Bats or something along those lines. It's not always exactly the same, but it's very similar in a lot of ways. And go ahead.
I was just saying, I have a question. Pardon for the interruption. We have reason to believe that one of the cults that we mentioned earlier, namely that of the Bloody Tongue, has at least members on the northwestern side of Australia near Darwin. We don't have a whole lot of specifics, but we do have some shipping manifests that would indicate that there was someone on this continent working for them.
I see.
And you say that you've never heard of the cult of the Bloody Tongue, but I would be interested to know, have you observed or heard of or recorded any kind of activity of one of these cults of the Sandbat or one of the others?
So the cults of the Sandbats did exist at one point. I don't have evidence that they exist now.
Okay, and you've not heard of anything going on up in that region?
But I would say that the entirety of the western half of Australia is empty.
Sure.
But it wasn't always that way. The natives here are still comfortable out there, or as comfortable as they can be. But it is I've toured the United States, and I've seen places like Yosemite, where Yosemite is cold, but there are also hot springs. This is a very warm place, and there are also hot springs.
Okay.
I would expect that, and he leans in a little close. He says, I would expect that if hell has a landscape, Western Australia is not too far off.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And
Now,
Claudius adjusts his sleeves.
the cults here are mentioned in native song cycles. They're talked about in a lot of different ways. There's talk of human sacrifice as part of their worship, and some of that might come from rewritten history by other native groups, but also there have been enough findings to suggest that some of it, if not all of it, is true. Maybe not as much as we are led to believe by writings, but at least some of the human sacrifice is true.
Okay.
Well, we've witnessed some of that ourselves, so.
Yeah, we've actually witnessed people that had been kidnapped for the sacrifice.
Now, there was a group some time ago. I met a man named Arthur McWhirr out of Port Hedland. That's going to be farther west of Darwin. Kind of, it's still on the coast, obviously, but it's going to be farther west than Darwin and a little south. He kept a diary in which he recorded several attacks on his party by natives, and then deaths of victims from hundreds of small punctures, remnants of what these earlier bat cults would have used. They used clubs embedded with the sharp teeth of bats, and they often used poisons on them.
So,
Their methods don't sound completely unlike that of some of the others that I believe my companions have dealt with.
Dalphus, that club that we recovered in New York, wasn't it spiked with like teeth or sharp protrusions? I'm trying to.
It was sharp protrusions.
Okay, so very similar to what you're describing.
Yeah. You guys have Bobby's pictures that he developed?
Yeah, I would think
I'd
so.
have them. Yeah.
Do you share all of those with the professor?
No, I'm going to share a picture of the club that we recovered.
So this is not quite the same. You'll notice that the handle here, and he points out some differences that to you don't make a lick of difference, but it's clear that he sees a big difference in the culture. And then he kind of points at the metal protrusion. He says, now this is somewhat similar. It's meant to do the same thing, although this is one, while the ones here were many. So I don't know that it's quite the same, but there are definitely similarities.
Interesting. We're in a public location, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nobody else really in here.
Okay. Okay.
It is too hot. Like it is one of those very, very hot, humid days.
Okay. I hate those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's making your hair poofy.
Yeah, probably. Claudius's curls are starting to come out. He keeps smoothing them down, as futile as that is.
So, if you don't mind me asking, the cult of the Sandbat, when they would do a human sacrifice, what were the characteristics of it?
You can ask questions that I don't have answers for. The sacrifices were run through a gauntlet of worshippers who struck the victim with the clubs, typically.
Okay. So not anywhere close to what poor Elias went through.
What exactly did Elias go through?
They carved a cult symbol into his head.
You do have pictures of that. Do you want to show
I
them?
have.
Yep.
Claudius has it in a journal.
Yeah, I was going to say
Jewel
Drew
drew
the
it,
picture.
so he would pull it out and open it. I was also going to say this is a Roxanne thing that I don't know. Is it metagaming if I remind you guys of stuff that happened before?
No. It's actually really helpful. We've had too much of a big break.
Okay, because if Jewel were here, she would be the running through with several people beating. That would remind her reminds Roxanne of the deaths, some of the bodies pulled from the Thames, where they had been believed to be beaten with clubs by several
That's
people.
right.
By several people. Of course, hearts were taken or something on somebody, but I don't remember if that was the same one or not. But there's that too, and we know that was the cult of the bloody tongue. But yeah, he would pull out he's like, I believe it was this,
And
shows
so
them
that was the symbol that they carved into his head, and then they had basically cracked his chest open and pulled out his heart.
That's quite disturbing.
It was very disturbing for us to see.
I don't know that I see a correspondence with the cult of the Sandbat, but that doesn't mean necessarily anything. I do have the journal from McWhirr that might be of interest to you. I don't know that there's a cult currently. I don't have any evidence other than this journal from McWhirr.
And so, not to pull you in any deeper than you might want to be, when we actually spent some time in England, and there had been reports, and we got confirmation from Scotland Yard that there have been several bodies pulled from the Thames, the Thames, that matched the description of what the Sandbat cult did. They looked like they had been beaten with clubs.
It's interesting.
That's
very
not an
interesting.
uncommon form of primitive.
It's not, and I'm sure none of us want to imply necessarily that they are related. We're just trying to exhaust the possibility, seeing as my companions have discovered that some of these cults seem to be related, or at least claim some sort of relation. And then we do know that they were making sacrifices in England. Did we say that? Did I just give something away?
You just gave something away.
Okay. We do know that a group was active in England, but pardon me for saying so. I mean, I've caught up a lot on what's gone on when before I got here, and there is a lot to at least ascertain that, or there's enough information to ascertain that something was going on, and people were being hurt by a group of people that claimed to be members of a cult, whether or not they were delusional or not, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Well,
it does.
Anthony, the deaths in England were confirmed to be the cause of the cult of the Bloody Tongue. And
that is incorrect. Are you telling him incorrect information on purpose?
No, I'm not.
It is the Black Pharaoh.
Okay.
Oh, the
Well,
Brotherhood
there
of the
it
Black
is.
Pharaoh. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's my
that's
bad.
fine. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
It's just us getting
Black
confused.
Pharaoh. Let's say that, and then let me complete my train of thought. It'll connect them together anyway.
Yeah.
Were confirmed to be by the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh. The ones that killed Mr. Elias in New York was the cult of the Bloody Tongue. At the point then we had discovered this, they were not connected in our minds. Once we ventured further in Egypt, we discovered more, and it has come to light that the cult of the Bloody Tongue originates out of Africa, out of Kenya, and the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh, of course, out of Egypt. However, the entity that they revere and worship is one and the same by different names. So have you heard of the God of Many Faces, or the name, and I showed in my book here, Nyarlathotep?
Go find his stats. I can't say that I've heard of anyone called the God of Many Faces. However, the Nyarlathotep is something I've heard before. It reminds me of I don't remember where I read it, but it was something about being a messenger of the gods.
And we found evidence here, and we're claiming that the Nyarlathotep, also calling himself the God of Many Faces, is the same for those two cults. So the cult of the Bloody Tongue, which is a different aspect or a different face of this many-faced god, also known as Nyarlathotep, which is the name of the Black Pharaoh that is revered by the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh.
Let's see.
So now we've connected a cult operating in New York, in England, that both come out of Africa and are connected through at least 3 different continents. And now we've found connections leading us to other places as well that we're trying to investigate.
Well, this is very interesting. I would definitely want to see your notes more on this, and not that not that I don't believe you. I just, a cult's working like this would suggest that there is an overarching hierarchy that cults don't typically have.
Precisely, which is why we've come to you.
Well, okay. I'll be happy to look at. I'd be happy to talk with you about this more. The only one that I can think of in Australia that would match any of this that we've been talking about is the Sandbat, and short of the story from recent by Mr. McWhirr, I don't have any indication that they are still around. I do have his diary if you want to look over it, but
absolutely.
He actually reaches in his bag and pulls out a small pocket diary of brown cloth stamped with the year 1921. And each page bears the space of for 2 days. Roxy, can you put up number 36?
Sure.
So for our watchers at home, I'm becoming increasingly uncomfortable with parts of things written. So anywhere that I find something written that is potentially racist, the module tries to present it in such a way that it is appropriate to the time period, and I'm getting more and more uncomfortable with that. So I'm going to use words like natives and Kori, where they use others that are indigenous, where they use others that are written other ways. So for instance, literally like the 5th word of March 7th is a racial slur. So I'm done.
We're just not going to use them. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that if our watchers at home are like, well, that didn't match up with what it says, I'm trying to avoid things that I'm no longer comfortable with. Jock Karaja says that the natives are following us. Most unusual if true. Primitives have every reason to fear guns and are bush range predilections for using them. Bush ranger predilection for using them. Also, sometimes the words won't match what I say because I can't read. That's in the past, I've always known them to head the other way as soon as they see they sight white men. We are March 21st. We are equally distant from Joanna Spring and Separation Well, east of an awful line of dry lakes. The heat is terrible. Our hopes are low. There's nothing here, certainly not quartz reefs. L's notations are in systematic error. He is a complete duffer as a surveyor. Today we sighted several enormous birds flying lazily above. How did they get here, and where can they be going? Are you reading this out loud, Dalphus?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The easiest.
So Dalphus and Aaron both do me sanity checks.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
oh, I am good. I rolled 17.
So you
Nice.
both remember bird-like creatures that you have seen before. No sanity loss here, but it is definitely, the description in the book is a little more thorough than what's written here, or what I'm reading here. It is definitely reminiscent at the very least to what you see. March 20th.
The snake-like birds that we saw.
Yeah.
At the time. I gotcha.
March 22nd, at about noon today, we found Jack partially buried in a gully. His body was scoured and covered with hundreds of small punctures, as though somebody had sandblasted him. We buried him, of course. I shall miss his counsel, and he was an excellent hand with the camels. March 23rd, we have discovered what appears to be remnants of an ancient city rising from the shifting sands. I believe I have secured several good photographs of this amazing find, though the heat has ruined all but 6 of my photographic plates. By the pitting of the stones, the blocks and the pillars, by the pitting of the stones, the blocks and pillars appear to be more than 10,000 years old. Incredible. March 24th, 4 camels killed in an attack last night. I saw at least 2 natives, and more must have been skulking out there. I'm sure I hit one. That ends this trip. We'll have to head back to Concudgery and report this incident. More than men were out there last night. I saw shapes much bigger than men during the attack. My evidence is the body of old Sam, the camel, punctured and scraped, is the best way I can describe the remains, just like poor Jock. Since the attack lasted only a couple of minutes, it's hard for me to believe that anything human could have done so much damage so quickly. I need another sanity check from Aaron and Dalphus.
Okay.
I want to go insane in Australia. Oh, failed.
Where's Matt? Oh yeah, just barely. Okay.
Did you make it?
Yeah, just barely.
Go. So Aaron, you just disassociate over the detail. It's not a big deal. You don't lose any sanity.
Okay.
But Dalphus, you remember hearing previously about when you met the lady in her home that was missing part of her mouth. She mentioned forms in the sand at night near the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
This is also reminiscent of that as well.
Okay.
That's the end of the journal entries that are important. He says that's the information that might tie in. That's the weirdest thing I've seen of any kind of modern age, not even 40 or 50 years ago, not since Europeans arrived here.
I have a, I guess we could call it sanitized or redacted copy of my notes and journal that I have copied on our boat ride. It removes mentions of like encounters with like Nyarlathotep in person.
It keeps you sounding sane while still providing something weird.
Because I worked on copying that out so that I could use that to present to like the university and things like that. So I'm going to give that to.
So they didn't just
Professor
fire you for
Cowles.
being nuts.
So are you also keeping out like the information of the star map and the 3 locations that we found? We're keeping that to ourselves as well.
Very sort of redacted information about that. I'll mention things that we have that tie into it. Not, nothing that sounds crazy, nothing that gives away any.
Let me ask you a couple of points just to make sure. So it's about the Carlisle expedition, right?
Yes.
And it's about believing they're alive. Is that correct? Do you have descriptions of the Carlisle expedition members?
Of the members? I don't know if I would have done that. I mean, that's kind of easy enough to find if you're looking for it.
That's fine. You detail that the Penhue Foundation was tied into the Carlisle expedition and the Clive expedition?
Yes, and that the responsible parties involved.
Okay. Do you mention that Gavigan, the head of the Penhue Foundation, was a member of the cult?
Yes.
Okay.
I finger him and list him as possible as a person of interest in the cause behind some of the disappearances.
I think we're pulling Aaron.
We're talking about several pages, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It also includes like if there would have been things where we like say when we run into our encounter in the pyramid with Nyarlathotep would be replaced with encountering the priest of a cult who claims to be such.
Sure. That makes sense. And you just hand this to him?
Yes.
I will, I'll read over, if I can have this for the evening, I'll read over this and bring it back to you tomorrow.
Sure.
And he kind of tucks it in his case. He sits back. You probably have all had a little bit of tea by now. He sits back and kind of pulls out a little flask from inside and pours a little bit in what's left of his tea and puts it back, and swirls that around in his cup, and then takes a nice big drink. And he says, "This is quite, it's quite disturbing. I'm concerned with what you brought to me."
Well, it could be quite concerning, but
if you believe that this group was shipping things to Darwin, I'd look for a shipping company. There's some larger ones in Sydney, but there are some smaller, shadier ones that operate out of Darwin that have been known to ship out artifacts that are not legally acquired. Australia is a little light on their laws about what can and cannot be taken, but they do want to get as much money out of it as they possibly can. So
what's the name of Claudius's company?
It's Samson and Yarrow, but we are on the
Samson
up.
and Yarrow.
Quite. I appreciate you.
I would kind of slyly say, oh, okay, shipping companies, yes. How about Samson and Yarrow? What do you know about that one?
I mean, they're a pretty large one. They do a lot of furniture, especially stuff from Europe that some of the high society would want here. I'm not sure that they even have anything in Darwin. I think they're based only in Sydney.
Yeah, I can attest. I have some familiarity with Samson and Yarrow's operations, and they do not have any warehouses in Darwin. This is another out of character question. We did way back in the first couple episodes when we were talking to the we went to the place, or somebody went to the place that smelled strongly because it had a bunch of spices and stuff going through it that were being shipped. And it was back when we were first going through Jackson's pockets and all the stuff that we found with the cult and everything. I thought that there was also a shipping company mentioned in one of those earlier. I guess I could just go through the handouts. Was that one based in Darwin, or was that?
I don't think so. I think that one's based in Mombasa. I have to look.
Okay. See, I was wondering. I was going to mention Mombasa earlier because I thought that we had something about Mombasa.
So you got Emerson Imports, which you have been to in New York.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm looking.
It's okay.
Previous things. Yeah, Emerson Imports, and then they pointed you to Silas and Quain, and that's where there was terrible things in the basement. You burned the place down.
That's right. Allegedly.
We didn't burn it down. Somebody else.
No, it burned itself down.
That's right.
No, you don't have any other shipments. Okay. I don't think.
Okay, no, I just couldn't remember, and I probably shouldn't ask that in the middle of a game session, but.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm looking for the place where it goes over all of them. Give me just a second.
Silas and Quain and Emerson Imports was that.
Yeah, that's the one that we have.
Yeah, that
looks like about the end.
The only one. Mombasa is listed in the ledger from Miser House.
Okay.
And I found the other cult name I was looking for in my notes here, and it's actually the Cult of Darkness, which was on the pamphlet from his thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I knew there was another cult name somewhere from way back there, and that's.
Yeah, I would say that here in Sydney, there's not a lot that would deal with the artifacts that might be taken, especially from a place like where Mr. McWhirr was coming from. They're typically shipped out of Darwin or even Port Hedland, not brought all the way to Sydney. It'd be way faster. You'd have to put them on a boat to get them here in any significant time.
Sure. I am going to point out the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
we wanted to wrap up soon.
Yeah, I actually think that's a great place to wrap up. Okay. Unless you guys have some pressing questions, I think this has been kind of about where we should be, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will be back next week to play the other half of To the Stars, which is our Star Trek Adventures, like one-off kind of thing. I guess it's 2 games, so it's not really a one-off, but whatever. That's with John, Roxy, and their roommate Sam, who's hiding somewhere upstairs,
He's
pretending
probably
not to be there.
asleep because he has to start work at like 4:30 in the morning,
Oh.
and he is working from home though. And he has been working for 2 weeks, over 2 weeks straight.
He's a
So,
working man now.
He had to work the last 2 Sundays, so Monday until today, and he
Jeez.
has to work the next Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, I was kind of glad we were on break because I went for a week, 2 or 3 weeks where I was working 65, 70-hour weeks.
Oh,
Jeez.
jeez, dude.
That sounds terrible.
It is.
I'm just going to keep being unemployed over here.
Yeah.
Um, So we'll be back next week for that. 2 weeks, we'll be back with the next episode of Illuminated Page. There are a couple other things coming up until the quarantine is kind of done. I think Growing Shadows is just going to stay on hiatus for a while, right, John?
That's
yeah,
where we are.
especially since me and all my players, we all live in Houston. And if you haven't been watching the news, Texas is terrible about how it's handling.
Abbott signed a statewide mask mandate today.
Which,
So-
Yeah, so did our governor too. We're going to see how that goes.
And I love
It's-
the wording on it. If your county has 20 or more active cases, you have to wear a mask.
yeah,
Well, there we go. That's all of our counties, I think.
yeah.
Pretty much. I
So-
think there's some counties in West Texas that have all of 10 people that live there.
Well, yeah.
But essentially, what the players and I have talked out is that until we at least see a drop, in cases developing, we are not going to be meeting. Even if we see a significant drop and we see maybe a plateau, God willing, then we'll start talking about when we meet back up. But until that point, that's just where we are, which is why a lot of our shows, we're going to start moving online. It's just easier at this point.
Yeah, so we have a couple other shows that were or are in development that have been kind of put up in the air about this. I had a D&D game that I was putting together. I don't even remember the name of the freaking thing. I think it was the Gilded Griffin, maybe?
Yeah,
I
something
don't
like
remember.
that, yeah.
It is, boy, oh boy, do I want to play that game. I've got a good story to tell, but it is on hiatus until I feel comfortable having people in my house. I like the people I'm going to play with, but I also like not having
COVID.
coronavirus. So that one's on hold for a while, and we'll work it out. We still got 2 tomes of
Isolation.
that is the wrong thing, not Tomes of Annihilation. Isolation on Tuesday, every other Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, come
Well, we have been every Tuesday. We're talking about switching that up, though, to maybe alternating that with another game
Cool.
near the end of the
If
month.
you watched that last episode, Annihilation may not be a bad name.
I know, yeah. Poor Professor Grunwald just...
That's
phew.
a heck of a way to go.
He just got torn up. He just wanted to go to the library. So that
I got to return my books.
there was a certain chat member that just said always go to the library, and I just, which is usually smart, but not on a cruise ship headed for Athens.
Hey. But the person that came after him didn't catch him in the library or didn't meet him from the library, right?
No, yeah, we bumped into him on the deck, but we didn't talk, and then he came after me in the library. Yeah.
If you would have just been in the library and stayed there, you might not have run into that
The
guy.
entire
That's all I'm
trip.
saying.
The entire
That's all I'm
trip. Yeah.
saying. Yeah, sure. I mean, go eat and come back. Yeah.
There's worse places to stay on a cruise ship than a library.
No, that's 100%. He didn't even get to play shuffleboard or anything. He took a
So,
stroll and a rest.
We are back next week with To the Stars, and then the week after that with Illuminated Page on Thursdays. And on Tuesday, Tome of Isolation will be back with John and or Roxy.
Yep.
But not both, because you only get one of you. So
Well, because then we wouldn't be isolated.
right, exactly. Otherwise, keep an eye on our Facebook and Twitter. We're going to be doing stuff a little bit there, hopefully. John has been posting fantastic stuff on our Facebook about Cairo. Hopefully we can find great pictures of old-time Australia. Just put up a bunch of emus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or rabbits. There was a great rabbit war, too.
Oh, wow.
I want a box of kangaroo while we're there.
Awesome.
Hey, guess who lost both of those?
Yeah.
Australia.
Australia.
I will say a wonderful person that I communicate with on Facebook is the source of a lot of the pictures, and that's the amazing map maker here on Twitch, Alyssa Fadden.
Okay, fantastic.
And she is doing a home game of Masks of Nyarlathotep that she's not broadcasting, but she's very eager
Good,
to
I don't
share
wanna
whatever.
compete.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Well, I think that does it for us tonight.
Yep.
We'll see you guys maybe next week, hopefully.
Alrighty, we'll see y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.
Bye,
Guys.
everybody. Later.